Okay, I think we are good to go. We welcome you to this year's Investor Day of Tata Motors Passenger Vehicles Limited. Being the first Investor Day post the demerger last year, this is a special one. I know many of you have sat through the CV Investor Day this morning, and many of you also attended the JLR Investor Day held in UK last week. So a big thank you for tuning into this week of Tata Motors Group of Companies Investor Days. I think just a quick note, what a fabulous financial year last year it was, FY26, been for our company. I think we made the most of the industry growth post the GST 2.0. We also relaunched our iconic brand Sierra to a very remarkable response from the market, and we ended the year in a very strong position, I think the best ever the company has had in the PV segment in India. At the same time, FY26 was not without its own due challenges. One of the key challenges was the geopolitical and the uncertainty in the global environment and the dynamics of the supply and demand, which led to very high and volatile commodity prices. And I think most of you know that that ate into our margins, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. While all this is behind us now, we are looking ahead to a very exciting future. And we have several of our business leaders here today to talk about their perspective of how they foresee the company will grow in the years to come by. With that, let me run you through today's agenda. Okay. Can you go back? Yeah. Sorry. So this is a quick standard safe harbor statement that we have put out. It's a customary statement, so nothing unusual about this. This is the agenda for today. We have 6 speakers who will be taking the stage. The first will be Mr. Sailesh Chandra, MD and CEO of the company. He will be here to discuss about the outlook and strategy for the PV business. Once Mr. Chandra's presentation is over, we will then deep dive into 3 specific areas of business update. First will be Mr. Anand Kulkarni, the Chief Product Officer of TPEM. He will zoom into the EV product and technology strategy. After him, second will be Mr. Mohan Savarkar. He is the Chief Product Officer as well as the Chief Quality Officer. He will talk about product quality transformation. Third will be Mr. Sudhir Chikle. He is our Chief Purchase Officer, and he will be here to talk about the supply chain transformation that the company is working on. When we are done with these 3, we will have Mr. Dhiman Gupta, our CFO. He will take stage to decode what all this means in terms of financial performance and the outlook. He will also be joined by Mr. Balaji Rajan, who is the Group Chief Strategy Officer, to talk about priorities and outlook for the consolidated PV business for the next 5 years. This is something we are doing for the first time, so it should be exciting to hear about that. We will then move on to a panel of speakers. All the speakers will be on stage to go through a Q&A. And we will divide the Q&A into 2 parts. Again, this is something for the first time we are trying to do. For the first 30 minutes of the Q&A, we will focus on the India business, which the panel will help answer your questions. For the next 30 minutes, we'll have Mr. P.B. Balaji and Richard, the CFO of JLR, joining us via Zoom. So I will request you to try and keep your questions separate for the first part of the Q&A and the second part. That will be easier for the responders to answer those questions. That's it from my side. With that, may I please welcome Mr. Chandra to take on the stage now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Investor Day 2026. For last several years, this annual gathering, I truly believe, has given us a platform to share our performance plans, thinking in a very open and direct manner. And I hope that it has been useful to you all also to evaluate us as a company better. So thank you for joining us for this event today. I think Sachin has already talked about, how the last year has been clearly of two distinct halves. Um, and we saw the challenging start gave way to a very steep recovery in the H2 of the last financial year. And I'm happy to share that Tata Motors emerged as one of the stronger players in the industry, owing to a very disciplined execution of the strategic plan and high degree of commitment and conviction of the team in Tata Motors passenger vehicles. But today it is not just about last year. It is, if you really see the long-term trends, um, clearly we see that there are significant transitions which lie ahead of us. Whether we talk in terms of regulations, technology, or how the consumers are discovering, choosing, and experiencing their cars, everything is seeing a transition and shift. And the question will not be whether these changes are going to happen or not, they will. It will be more important to really see who's better prepared to deal with these changes. I think those companies who will be showing greater readiness will be the ones which are going to drive sustainable, profitable growth in 5 years and beyond that. That's going to be the flavor of the presentation from my side. So let's begin. So first I will give you an overview of the last financial year. Then we'll have a section on understanding the long-term industry trends, transitions that I talked about, and then how our strategy is going to align with those trends and how we, through our strategy, want to hit the sweet spots of where the growth is going to come from. Starting with FY26, as I mentioned, it was tale of two halves for the Indian PV industry. However, it will be important to see how the demand has been panning out in the last 5-6 years. And the numbers that you see on the bars are monthly average volumes for that particular year. So in the COVID period, which is FY 2021, the industry was roughly at 230 to 250,000 per month level. And then the pent-up demand got released post-COVID, and there was a steep growth of 13%, 27%, and 9%, peaking in FY24 to about 350,000 a month. And after that, for nearly 18 months to 24 months, the industry kind of stagnated at a 350,000 level. And it started actually declining in H1 of last financial year because of subdued consumer sentiment. Significant stress on growth was seen in the small cars, which is less than 10 lakh segment. And that led to desperate actions in the market through heightened discounting. The channel inventory went up, and that led to value destruction for both the dealers as well as the OEMs. However, GST 2.0 came as the lady luck, and there was a broad-based recovery across all segments. And in the second half of the year, the industry grew by 16% plus. And some of the segments which did really well were the SUVs across the board, I would say, right from subcompact SUVs to high SUVs. We saw 20% plus growth. But the price cut which came because of GST 2.0, the CNG segment reacted better, and that grew by 30% plus. And in EVs also, for the first time, it was the highest ever sales, of course, but EV industry for the first time crossed the 200,000 mark. Tata Motors, for us, it was a very strong delivery with agile actions, disciplined execution, as I mentioned, which translated into record volumes of 6.4 lakhs, which was the highest ever for us. And our growth was 2 times that of the industry, which grew at 8%, and our growth was at 15%. We secured rank number 2 in the industry in H2 of FY26. And for 7 years in a row, we emerged as the top EV manufacturer in India, doing our highest ever annual volumes of 92,000 plus. In the CNG segment, the segment in which we entered in Jan 2022, In the last 4 years, we have expanded our portfolio of 4 to 5 products, and in the last 3, 4 years, we would have increased our volumes by 4 times. So this is a segment where we are really commanding number 2 position, but also roughly 25% market share in the CNG segment. So as I said that the growth has been across the portfolio, but particularly I would like to talk about CNG. I just mentioned that FY23 was the first full year of the CNG portfolio for us, which was starting with 2 products. We did 41,000, and last year we grew to 170,000. All these years it has been industry-beating growth for us. And what is our differentiation here? The differentiation is the twin-cylinder CNG innovation that we brought in this segment, which gave a boot space which was non-existent in CNG cars. But we also made this category more aspirational by not giving only the base variants, but also automatic transmission variants, as well as the top and tech features that generally people don't get in CNG segment, and that has really worked well for us, as far as this category is concerned. In the SUVs, Nexon and Punch were the top 2 SUVs in India in H2 FY26. Rather, these were the top 2 models in the private segment across all the cars. We also introduced the new nameplate, which is Sierra, which saw a very strong traction. In hatches, you would be surprised that actually in this growing segment, the first half declined so much that even a recovery that happened in the H2 was not sufficient to grow this segment in double digits. It was at the end only, it actually fell by 3% in the last financial year. It was only Tata Motors which actually grew in hatch by 16% year on year. And that was on the back of a refreshed Altroz. We have 2 hatches actually, the refreshed Altroz, as well as we came with a mid-year model year intervention in early 2025, which helped us grow the Tiago also. As far as EV is concerned, over a period of time, we have been widening our portfolio, different price points, and different body styles, different size of cars. Along with that, we have been nurturing the ecosystem along with the charge point operators in a collaborative way. And that has given us, also 300,000 cars that we have sold has covered nearly 14 billion kilometers. And combination of all these 3 things has created a moat for us, which helps us, retain our leadership position. And you can see that a journey which we started in FY19 with few hundred cars that we sold. Even FY20, you see, we would have sold 1,300 cars. Last year, it peaked to nearly 1 lakh, which was 92,000. And cumulatively, we have sold 300,000 plus electric vehicles. Last year, we expanded our portfolio. First, we launched the Harrier EV, which has been a phenomenal success. It's the flagship model coming with all kind of new tech that you can imagine. Punch EV was refreshed. Now, it is not a normal refresh what you see in ICE cars. With the upgrade, we have given a significant value enhancement and therefore strengthened the value proposition. So you would have seen that the range of the car was increased while the price was decreased, and the demand has completely exploded. The demand has pre the facelift, and post the facelift, the demand is 5 times more. So that is the kind of growth that we had been able to drive. As I said that, while H2, one big factor was the GST 2.0, which we leveraged with agility and discipline of execution. But there were a series of launches also that coincided in H2, which was, you would have seen Sierra. Then we had the petrol version of Harrier and Safari. The Punch got a facelift, both in ICE as well as EV, and you can see the differentiation that we have started bringing in the EV versus the ICE. I talked about the Altroz and also Harrier EV. I think this re-energized our entire product portfolio and therefore the footfalls in the showroom. One thing which we have realized in the last 5 years of growth, that generally industry grows by 5-6%. But our 6-year journey has been a growth rate, consistent growth rate of 30% plus, when you grow so fast, your entire systems, the key pillars on which you lay the foundation of the company can start shaking. And therefore, we realized this in the third year because a lot of things we could not do in the times of COVID, but it was important to bring the focus of the entire organization on these pillars or the foundations of the company which had to be kept strong. And therefore, these were the 5 pillars of quality, service, marketing, sales, and network profitability, for which there was an L1 leader who was sponsoring these programs. And this was, then backed with a very strong governance with series of initiatives in the last 2 years, I would say. Uh, and what this has led to, on the quality side, we saw that there were a lot of early vehicle issues which were coming. And therefore, there were a set of actions, and I'm not going to talk in detail because Mohan is going to present later on, but logistics side actions, the gating is within the plants, and then electronic proof of delivery, when the transporter hands the car to the dealer, all those kind of actions has led to nearly 60% drop in the early live vehicle issues. On the service side, the biggest issue had been the capacity, but also with the new tech coming, the capability to diagnose the problems was another issue. And therefore, AI-led, diagnostic tools, technical help desk in our R&D center for technicians to directly access and consult with them. Uh, Capacity enhancement, not only in terms of opening the service centers, but also expanding the number of bays and improving the productivity of the bays. Series of initiatives started in service which led to significant improvement in the TAT adherence, which is turnaround time in service. On the marketing side, broadly 3-pronged actions. One, how we make our launch, each new launch count. And there was a change in approach that you would have seen in the last 1 year or so. Heavy use of MarTech to ensure that there is efficiency in how we spend, and we have full clarity in terms of what kind of spend leads to what kind of marketing outcomes. And third is to communicate well our 3 brand pillars, which I'll in any case talk about later on. That has led to 30% plus growth in bookings. On the sales side, it was focus was around conversion, so use of AI to qualify our leads, hot leads, warm leads, and therefore increase the conversion. Beyond that, it was training, which was focused on objection handling, sales pitch. All these actions have led to 260 bips increase in inquiry to bookings conversion. Network profitability came under significant stress, specifically in the H1 of FY26, where the number of profitable dealers went down to 65% or so. And there were a series of actions that we took, not only in terms of addressing each and every cost element of the dealers, but also the earning opportunity for them. That has led to, as we exited the last financial year, more than 90% of the dealers were profitable. On the international business side, first, our journey from FY20 to FY26 has been extreme focus on first establishing our foothold in the domestic market, creating and strengthening our brand pillars, and then expanding internationally. I think this was the first such year where we entered a major market. Otherwise, we had grown ourselves more in the subcontinent region. We were mostly doing in Nepal, which had become a very electric-focused market. And then we have expanded into Sri Lanka, Mauritius, Bhutan, and so on. These are very small volume market, but the big entry was South Africa. And why South Africa? First, because 49% of the cars which are sold in South Africa are exported from India. So this was the right fit of the market with the kind of products that we had. And this is going to scale up this year because we entered last year sometime middle of the financial year. But this year, the dealership network is going to expand. The portfolio is going to expand in South Africa. So that will be the big lever this year. Going forward, we have identified the major markets across continents. The low-hanging fruits would be the Commonwealth countries. But as far as EVs are concerned, it will be all the developed markets. So this is how we'll progressively expand our presence in IB. That was more on FY26 as an overview. Now let's get into the long-term industry trends. Now, when we talk about long-term industry trend, first is what is the projection 5 years down the line. As per our estimate, industry is going to grow to 6.4 million. For FY20, it was 2.8 million, grew to by nearly 20 lakh or 2 million to 4.7, and another 17 lakh or 1.7 million will get added in the next 5 years. How? One, that we have seen the long-term secular trend of growth in PV industry is significantly correlated to the GDP growth of the country. And therefore, long-term growth is always between 6 to 7% as far as PV industry is concerned. And that's the assumption here also for the next 5 years. What is really driving the growth? One is the growing income. And the relevant households for car buying is household with income of greater than 15 lakh. That is going to grow 2 times in the next 5 years. So that will be a big growth driver. Second, the replacement cycles are becoming faster. So if earlier the customers were keeping their cars for 6-7 years, now they keep it for 4-5 years because new tech is coming, the upgrades are coming faster, so they want to access the latest cars. And therefore, this cycle has also been shortening a bit. The right side chart is a bit interesting. So 3 hills that you see are for 3 different years. The smaller one is for FY21, the next is for FY26, and the third one is for FY31. It shows that in these time periods, as you move towards the future, the hills are becoming taller and it is moving rightwards. It means it indicates volume expansion because Y axis is volume, X axis is price of the cars. You're clearly seeing that the median price of the cars are increasing every year. And why that is happening? Because your personal disposable income is growing at 9%, whereas car price inflation is less than the country inflation at 3%. So this is leading to greater ability of people to buy more expensive cars. So if it was 7 to 8 lakh median price in FY21, it has shifted to 11 to 12 today. In the next 5 years, this will shift to 15 lakh. So you can understand where the velocity of demand is going to shift towards. The other big shift, I think this is quite intuitive because you have been seeing this trend. The SUVs continue to increase in terms of as far as body style share is concerned, from 28% in FY20 to 55% now, will grow to 60% in FY31 for 2-3 reasons. One, that this is a body style which is globally, becoming a trend. In India, it is more relevant because of the road conditions and the aspiration, which is behind SUVs as far as India is concerned, but also more launch actions in SUVs. And SUVs used to be expensive. Now, since the median price points are shifting, therefore, there is greater propensity for people to purchase SUVs, and also the segment itself is proliferating to smaller cars to bigger cars. So all in combination is leading to this kind of a shift. Hatches, conversely has been actually declining from 46% to already 24%, but now we are seeing this segment stabilizing a bit because this is the segment which will bring the additional buyers as the first-time buyers. Not necessarily that all first-time buyers are buying hatches, but a significant portion of them will continue to buy hatches because of the low price accessibility points. So that will stabilize at about 20%. But there's a big shift which is coming, when you see the cutoff across generation, what is happening. So 2025, if you see the gray part of the bar and the dark green, nearly 86% of the buyers were Gen X and Gen Y. But in the next 5 years, 93% of the buyers will be Gen Y and Gen Z, which means that rise of Gen Z is going to lead to greater expectations of digital customer journey and more emotional purchase drivers like modern design, aspirational tech, and so on. Tech is going to come big time in the vehicles, but these are the 4 or 5 big trends that we see in this space. One, as I said, that more and more customers, because of Gen Y and Gen Z, want car to be an object of self-expression. So people are looking for modern and aspirational design language. Premium tech features, you have the advent of tech also in the area of connectivity, in the area of autonomy. I think all these trends are going to become democratized over a period of time. It starts with the highest segment, but will over a period of time get democratized. Superior in-cabin creature comfort. Today, in the houses where you live, you want to make it a place which gives you mindfulness, peace, uh, indulgence. And the same thing you would like to have in your car itself. So that expectation is also going to the cars. Same is the case, as far as software integration is concerned. So today you seamlessly move from one device to the other. Car is also one of the devices, and therefore it has to seamlessly integrate into your digital lifestyle. Software-defined vehicles. Today, if you purchase a car, if you have to access all the new features and upgrade which have come, you don't have to buy a new car. The car should be able to upgrade itself during your ownership period through over-the-air updates and so on. That's the world of software-defined vehicles, and the architectures are going to align completely to this trend. Those were some of the trends, but the biggest trend, and which is going to play out big, is multi-powertrain. 45% of the industry will be CNG and EV. In the last 5 years, it has moved from less than 10% to 30%. This 30% will become 45% in the next 5 years. It'll be a pull versus push factor, both in combination acting. Pull factors are the value that these two powertrains are bringing on the table from a consumer pull perspective, which is running cost advantage, significantly better in EV, and CNG offers, half the running cost of otherwise conventional powertrains. Value propositions are being strengthened. So in EVs, you have seen over a period of time, the range has been increasing, more features are being given, price parity is coming. So because of that, the value proposition is becoming more meaningful to the customers. There's growing customer acceptance also, because the choices are becoming wider as more and more OEMs are also starting to offer these two powertrains and at different price points. What are the push factors? Push factors are driven by the policymakers and the OEMs' actions. Some of them are CAFE is the big one. CAFE 3 will force the OEMs to have certain minimum percentage of electric, CNG, otherwise they face penalty. Ecosystem actions. So while the expansion of volume and vehicle park of these two powertrains is triggering the interest of entrepreneurs to get into this space, but there are OEM-led actions also. On the CNG, I think government has a clear plan of increasing the city gas distribution network. It has a plan to increase it to 18,000 by 2030. Today already it is at about 9,000. So this is going to widen over a period of time also. And of course, the inflationary cost environment, because of the regulations, the ICE vehicles and conventional technologies will keep becoming expensive, while you'll see deflationary trends in EV cost structure. So I think all this in combination is going to lead to a significant part of the industry volume coming from these two. Let me pick one by one. So, EV industry, let's talk about that. Today, last year, we ended at 2.2. This year, conservative is 3.5, because last 2 months, if you see the volumes, it is more supply-led because demand is significant. So industry is trending more closer to 27, 30,000 kind of a number every month, which if you multiply by 12, it becomes 3 lakh, 3.5 lakh, but it can be anywhere between 3.5 to 4 lakh. So you would have added already 1.5 to 2 lakh this year. And in the next 4 years, you have to, even if the trend is linear, you're going to hit the 10 lakh number. It can be more. Key drivers, CAFE is the big one, because it's a push strategy where all OEMs are going to offer, and therefore when the choices come from all the OEMs, the customer gets more excited. Penetration of top players, a lot of top players were away from EV segment, but all have entered now and will be expanding their portfolio on the EV side. Growing acceptance by the mainstream consumers. I think the recent war in the Middle East has really triggered situations overnight from a push mode to a pull mode. and the industry is really struggling to meet the demand which is growing today. Barriers for adoption are being addressed: range, price, charging speeds, charging infra. I think progressively these barriers are being overcome, so therefore industry is for sure going to hit a penetration of anywhere between 15 to 20% by FY31. How the growth of this 17 lakh is going to come? Nearly 47% of this growth is going to come from EVs, 35% from CNG. So I'm saying roughly 80% plus is going to come from CNG and EV, and 18% from petrol, diesel, including hybrids and all. So you'll say, is this a bet? Is it very optimistic? See the last 3 years trend. 95% of 8 lakh growth which has come in the last 3 years has come from CNG and electric. And therefore, this is pretty much a locked in trend. For me, this can be even more in favor of electric and CNG, because now you have bigger triggers, after the East crisis, the pace at which the demand is growing for EVs. Also, the CAFE is going to get triggered from next year. So 17 lakh, 80% of this is going to get added because of EVs and CNG. So what's our strategy, keeping in mind all these trends? It's important to see what has been our journey, because whatever aspiration that I show you will be a question of what is the proof point. So FY20 to FY26, we have grown 5 times, from 133,000 to 640,000, whereas industry has grown 1.7 times. And how that growth has come? One, in line with the industry growth, there's a part which has come, which is a smaller fraction. The bigger fraction has also come from portfolio expansion and improving the value proposition of our current products in the portfolio. And there's a significant part which has come because of unique multi-part brain strategy. That has led to this kind of a growth. What are we aspiring? We are aspiring, so you can see FY20 to 26, 30% CAGR, 9% increase in market share. We want to do half of that, at least. So our aspiration is, in the world of realism, we want to grow 15% CAGR. We want to achieve the next 5 to 6% increase in market share, taking our volume aspiration to doubling from where it is, from 6.4 to 1.2 million plus. How this is going to come? One, of course, the industry growth, 17 lakh, which is going to get added. We'll get our fair share in business as usual situation. The second is going to come from the portfolio expansion, which I am going to talk about. And of course, every launch is going to strengthen our value proposition further, make it more modern, make it more compelling. You would have seen the refreshes in the recent past. The big one is going to come from also EV and CNG, as it has been the case in the last 5 years. This trend is now intensifying. So this is going to be a high growth, but also a high market share scenario for us. So we will be the beneficiaries of this. This is how it will stack to achieving 1.2 million as a minimum number for ourselves. This is our current portfolio of 9 products that you see. We want to increase it to 15 nameplates. So we'll add 6 new nameplates. And all these 15 nameplates, and especially the current 9 nameplates, including all of them, they might go 1 or 2 facelifts or refreshes in this period. So it's going to be an intense next 5 years in terms of our product actions to support the growth aspiration that we have. This is a complex chart, but let me simplify it. First, focus on the left side, which is our portfolio strategy. Simple. We are today at 60% addressable market, doing about 25% market share in those segments, and that translates into 15% market share. We would increase this addressable market to 80% plus, maintain our 25% market share in each segment. On an average, it can be slightly higher in one segment, lower, but on an average, we would make the product so compelling and fiercely competitive that it at least does 25%. Now focus on the right side chart. It's a 2 by 2 matrix. The x-axis is the nameplates, new and existing. The y-axis is the industry segment, existing and new industry segments or powertrain options, right? The bottom left shows the existing portfolio. So here, of 9 products and EVs, ICE mix, here we'll ensure that the timely refreshes facelift, which is a, thumb rule or a cycle of facelifts that you bring every 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, depending on the segment and the competition intensity there, we'll keep doing this with high level of intensity. The right bottom are new nameplates in existing segments. There are segments where we are not present, where competitors have their products. We are going to enter, and there are going to be 3 of them. 2 in ICE and 1 in EVs. Oh, sorry. That I don't know, maybe slightly opposite also, but 3 between the 2. New nameplates in new segments means we are going to create white space. And what is the rationale of this white space? You saw the price volume chart. If price volume chart is moving to different price points and the volume is centered around those price points, it expands the market, it gives opportunity for you to come with new offerings to the customers, and that's the white space creation that we'll be focusing on. And there are other elements also which come because of the new tech and architecture, which gives you an opportunity to create a new white space. Let's take, for example, Avinya. A skateboard as a tech or an architecture gives you an opportunity to give bigger cabin space and more indulgent experience on a smaller footprint. So those kind of white space, opportunities are also that we are going to explore. There will be 3 of them. Avinya is one of them, and there will be 2 additional. 1 additional in EV, 1 additional in ICE. And then you'll have multi-powertrain offerings with the existing nameplates, we will give electric, CNG, these kind of options. Now, it's not 2, as you see there. These are only illustrative. It can be more. It will be more, right? So this is broadly the distribution of where our new products and product interventions will lie. I talked about the brand pillars. The association of a brand over the last 5-6 years has strengthened all in these 3 areas, not by accident, but by plan. 1, we want to bring our products which are distinct in whichever segment we. So as I said that even if I'm going to enter a new existing segment with a new product, the design is going to be stunning, it is going to be differentiated. The interior experience is going to be more premium and more indulgent. Safety is a no compromise philosophy within the company, whether it is a Tiago, whether it is a Harrier Safari, all the cars have to be designed to be 5-star rated. Technology. We have been striving for the last 5 years to now go ahead of the curve. And you will see this trend continuing. We are very agile in spotting the trends globally, and we are trying to move fast in bringing those technologies and democratizing them across different accessibility points. So we will keep working on these 3 pillars, and this is the flavor that you will keep getting in the new products or upgrades and refreshes that we are going to bring. I talked about the industry trend of multi-powertrain becoming 80% of what will define the growth. You will see similar flavor as far as our growth journey is concerned. EV, CNG, but also petrol, and because our axis of growth is not only powertrain. Our axis of growth is powertrain, our axis of growth is expansion of portfolio, and the third dimension is network growth. So in all these 3 dimensions we are going to grow, and I'll talk about the network later on. So electric vehicles and CNG vehicles are going to be 2 big growth engines for us, and where we have nurtured these categories in the last 7-8 years, and therefore we have a more dominant position here, and we are more comfortable in terms of leveraging and riding this wave of growth which is going to come. Talking about CNG, quickly, what is the opportunity? Has been penetrating very fast, especially in the small car segment, but has the scope of expansion up to 4.3 meter cars. The gas distribution network I already talked about, government has planned to take it to 17 to 18,000 by 2030. We have been seeing that this plan earlier, 4 years back, was 10,000. Government has increased it to 17, 18,000. It can expand beyond 20,000. So we are tracking where these stations are going to come, and therefore we'll align our strategy according to that. Better driving economics, we know it is half or 1/3 of the running cost as compared to petrol or a diesel. And it is also a big opportunity in the fleet and taxi segment. So how we are going to win here? First, we have only 4 products right now on the CNG. We'll further expand it. We will continue to further look for differentiation opportunities beyond the twin cylinder technology and the modernity of the features that we are giving in this space. We will selectively participate in the fleet opportunity where the return on our effort is going to give us the maximum yield. Strong sales ecosystem in CNG market, so we have full understanding of where the expansion of the gas stations are going to come, and we will align on network and brand strength in these markets and have stronger, wherever we see there is a stronger propensity for CNG cars. On the EV side, I think Anand is going to cover in detail, mostly from a tech perspective, but here we have our existing portfolio. But existing portfolio does not mean that this is a saturated opportunity. Punch EV is an example, Tiago EV is an example. Every product, when we upgrade, as I said, we upgrade to enhance its value proposition and overcome more barriers and double or triple the volumes there. So the same product becomes double in terms of its potential after an upgrade, and that is what Tiago EV is proving, Punch EV is proving, and you will see in future all these products will see doubling of their volumes with the changes that we are going to bring. And Anand is going to talk about that journey. At the same time, we will be expanding the portfolio. So 4 additional products are going to come. We have 6 today, 4 additional products. So therefore, we are preparing ourselves extremely well to tap this 800,000 growth which is going to come in the next 5 years. This gives you a glimpse of how, over a period of time, in entry, mid and high EVs, we are going to overcome the barriers and strengthen the value proposition. So entry is what? Cars less than 12 lakh. Mid is 12 to 18, 20 lakh. And then high is more greater than 20 lakh category of cars. In the high category, you already see that most of these barriers have been overcome. Faster charging is an ever-evolving opportunity which you will keep tapping. But in the entry side, you have the greatest difficulty. You have a lot of barriers still left. But we are therefore driving greater innovation to see how we are able to overcome all these barriers so that you unleash a big opportunity which lies in where the median of the market is. And therefore, this will be our effort in the next 5 years so that from a demand perspective, we have done our best to really explode as a market leader the demand as far as electric vehicles are concerned. Beyond the portfolio actions, I think what will be our moat is our scale, tech stack, and the ecosystem play. So on the cost and technology edge, I think we have been the first mover advantage. The 14 billion kilometers that 300,000 plus cars have covered has given us tremendous insights to mature our technology, to understand the use behavior, and therefore keep optimizing our system for cost efficiency, reliability, and overall technical efficiencies. Cost structure advantage I must give credit to the engineering team and purchasing team working in combination to be on top of understanding how globally the tech advancements are happening at every subsystem level. And therefore, you have seen the X in one boxes and all, not only making the packaging easier, but also drastically bringing down the cost. And this journey continues for us. So we will ensure that we are not lagging behind where the best in the world is, and therefore ensure that our cost structure continues the deflationary path as far as electric vehicles are concerned, and intense and go more deeper as far as localization is concerned. We already are the beneficiaries of PLI, which means that we are more 55%, 60% localized. We are going to further go deeper here. Ecosystem actions, I think this is not the place where we are directly investing. Our first set of work that we did here was with the charge point operators to share information. When we had 5 billion kilometers of data, we shared with them where the cars are moving, where it will make more sense to put the chargers on the highways, where you will get better utilization. The collaboration started in that fashion. But now it is our skin in the game with the money that we invest along with them to expand it much faster. And the Tata.EV, one example you have seen outside, the Tata.EV charging stations, how they look like. This would be typically 120 kilowatt chargers with 6 or 8 charging points with very high level of uptime and even support which is available, personal support to help you if you are facing problem in charging your car. And this has been working really well, and we want to expand this very fast along with the charge point operators. So on the ecosystem side, so it's not going to be only product action or focus on improving our tech, but also supporting the ecosystem actions. Beyond this, there are 5, 6 areas where we would like to keep our focus very sharp. One is the network growth, capacity of our manufacturing footprint, because this would require additional capacities. Quality, which will be covered in detail by Mohan, but I will just touch upon broadly the 4 levers: service, and then profitability. In the last 5, 6 years, we have doubled our network, and we would double our sales network in the next 5 years. So our journey from 759 has gone to 1669, it will go to 3200 to support the doubling of volume growth that we want. But on the service network side, we would like to triple the service network, because this is where the stress points had come, because first 2 years of COVID, we could not open the service centers. So there is a lag. So we want to ensure that the ratio of service centers and sales is in the ratio of 1:1. Today, it would be more 0.7. So we want to overcome that and grow 3 times to match the sales network. So that is the plan as far as service is concerned. As far as production capacity is concerned, we have 5 factories in Pune, 2 in Sanand, 1 in Ranjangaon with the joint venture partner, which is Stellantis. So we have 50-50% share of the capacity. And we have recently acquired the Panapakam land, and we have just started doing CKD operations of JLR, but this is additional manufacturing footprint that we have. Today we have about 900,000 capacity, more 850,000. We would be adding 400,000 capacity in the next 5 years, rather next 2 to 3 years, to take it to 1.3 million, so that we have headroom versus the aspiration that we have. How we are going to do that? Of course, this will be a brownfield in Sanand. There will be also structural expansion of some key shops in all these 5 plants, so that we debottleneck and release additional capacity in these plants. The other big thing is that we want multiple products to be made in multiple factories, so that if the demand goes down for one product, we are able to fill that capacity with product which is going in high demand. So we are trying to bring this fungibility. And of course, then ramping up of the supplier capacities in line with our volume aspirations. On product quality, very quickly, because Mohan is going to cover this, 4 levers we are focusing on. Because see, there are 2 stress points as far as quality is concerned. One is steep growth, leads to the system coming under stress. And the second is the new tech. Therefore, we have to prepare the system proactively rather than reactively, and therefore, in the areas of process and controls where you're going to use more system-led, system-level simulations, early validations whenever we are developing a new product, or stringent process controls and quality gates within our factories and at suppliers' end. On the infra side, given the number of new softwares and new technologies which are coming in, you have to create this infra of digital infra, which is hardware in loop, software in loop, digital twins, to ensure that you always don't need a physical test of those softwares, or not the softwares which fail in the field, but you have been able to fully model it, and you have been able to test it within the development process itself. And of course, state of the art quality infra across our plants to enable precision manufacturing, leverage data and AI, especially to identify the early defects and prediction, and continuous learning in this area. And as the cars are running on the roads, they are throwing data through telematics, capture that and use it as a tool for continuous improvement. Total quality management, strengthening this pillar, which basically is a way of life. It's a culture which is deployed across the organization and supplier partnership, utilizing tools like problem solving, prevention discipline, and so on. This is going to get covered in detail by Mohan, by the way, is going to be directly reporting to me for quality transformation, and he's going to take over that role, which signals a very strong focus on quality. On the service responsiveness, last time we had done a detailed presentation on this, but 4 areas of actions here. One is on the capacity. I already talked about it, that we want to triple it in the next 3 to 4 years, but also very innovative formats. For example, in rural areas, you had a sales point, but you did not have a service. So we have come with small 2-bay formats for rural areas so that we have good coverage and reach of our service centers. So that is one big action. Second is, the cars which come to the service center, first it takes a longer time to solve it, because many a times the technicians are not able to understand and diagnose the fault, especially when it is a new tech. Right now we have addressed that with training and also keeping a technical help desk in our R&D center for easy accessibility of technicians to our experts. But going forward, you will have diagnostic tools which are AI based, which completely maps the fault tree and is able to immediately identify the real problem, and therefore the turnaround times becomes higher, the repeat failures reduce. Infra modernization, big work being done in terms of enhancing the experience, but also improving the flow within the service center so that productivity also improves. Customer experience, how we make more transparent communication with the customer, because after doing all these things, these are more hardwares. The software is the interaction and transparency for a customer when they go to a channel partner. And today, the people are exposed to end-to-end visibility. Today, if you place an order on Amazon or a Zomato, you get full understanding of where your order is, what is the progress being made. I think that kind of an end-to-end digital customer journey is something which will get deployed by the end of this calendar year, and that will make the journey more seamless with less of friction and greater transparency. So this is about growth. What about profitability? We acknowledge that while we had a journey of 17% swing in EBITDA in the last 6 years, but we are behind the benchmarks by 5%, and therefore we are very, very conscious of this. And the delivery is going to come from broadly 2 levers, and this is going to get more expanded in the presentation by Sudhir and Dhiman. But operating leverage, which comes from the 2 times growth, this will be one big lever. But there's a machinery within the factory which Sudhir will talk about, which delivers 2.5% cost reduction every year. Now we are going to add a few more layers of new levers so that we further intensify and overcome the residual gap which is there. So we will be committed to delivering double-digit EBITDA for PV and EV consolidated, and strong FCF generation for PV and EV consolidated. So that's broadly the presentation from my side. I'm now going to invite Anand for presentation. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Building on the strategic direction that our MD has just shared, I would now like to take you through the evolution of our electric vehicle journey from the perspective of technology. Over the next few minutes, I would like to share not simply the technologies that we have developed or we are developing, but the thinking that has gone behind, the thinking that has guided our engineering decisions over this period of time, and how that thinking continues to shape us and our roadmap further. The pace of innovation in electric mobility continues to accelerate. Battery technologies are advancing, software-developed vehicles are becoming increasingly central to the vehicle, power electronics is continuing to advance, and customer expectations are rising. And with every new product introduced into the market, in such an environment, success is not determined by adopting every new technology. It comes from making very disciplined choices, technology choices, and identifying which innovations make that meaningful customer value, integrating them into a scalable vehicle architecture. Can you put that down a little bit? Sorry. And executing them consistently across the portfolio. And I would like to say that this is the guiding philosophy for our EV journey so far from the beginning, and let me take you through this. From the outset, our EV strategy has been guided by 4 enduring intents. The first one was obviously to pioneer the category, to establish a credible mass market electric vehicle business, and to build customer confidence in electric mobility. The second one, obviously, was to create the broadest EV portfolio in the market. We believed that electric mobility could become mainstream only when customers had a meaningful choice across body styles, across use cases, and price points. The third was to continuously enhance value. Every intervention, whether through greater range, improved efficiency, richer features, or better ownership economics, has been aimed at steadily strengthening the customer proposition. And finally, we made a conscious choice, a conscious decision to build capability in the technologies that matter the most. From vehicle platforms and battery systems to power electronics, software, we have consistently invested in technologies, in developing the engineering foundations that will define the next generation of electric vehicles. And these 4 intents have remained remarkably consistent even as the market itself has evolved. And I would say that together, they provide the framework for everything that follows. The second of those intents, which I showed you earlier, was to build the broadest EV portfolio in the market. Today, our portfolio spans from the Tiago EV up to the Harrier.EV, covering a wide spectrum of customer requirements, vehicle formats, and price points. This breadth allows us to participate across the largest addressable portion of the Indian EV market, rather than concentrating only on a handful of individual segments. The portfolio itself has evolved alongside customer expectations, because as new needs have emerged, we have expanded our offerings to address different lifestyles, different driving patterns, different value propositions, while continuing to strengthen our presence in the high-volume segments of the market. As you can see, this breadth of offering remains differentiated within the industry and allows us to engage with customers at multiple stages of their EV journey and provides a very strong foundation for long-term scale than any single product could achieve in isolation. Importantly, this portfolio hasn't been developed as a collection of independent vehicles. It is supported by common engineering principles, shared technologies, building blocks, and scalable architecture that allow the innovation that we do to be laterally deployed efficiently across multiple options. That common technology foundation becomes increasingly important as the portfolio continues to expand. If the previous slide reflected on the breadth of our portfolio, the Nexon EV is a good illustration of another important aspect of our strategy, our commitment to continuously improve the customer value proposition. Because electrification is not a one-time product launch. It's a continuous engineering journey where every technology intervention creates an opportunity to make the product more compelling for our customers. Over the last 6 years, ever since we launched the Nexon EV, we've consistently enhanced the car through improvements in battery technologies, vehicle efficiencies, and product capability. And therefore, as a result of that, while the initial vehicle got launched at a 200 kilometers real-life range, today our product is able to offer 350 kilometers. In some cases, some other products are able to go beyond 500 kilometers. And that's why the result has been a significant increase in real-world driving range while steadily strengthening the ownership experience. As customer confidence has grown, the adoption has grown. From being one of the early products in India's EV journey, the Nexon EV has evolved into one of the most defining vehicles of the country's electric mobility landscape, with more than 100,000 units in the field today. For us, this demonstrates a very important engineering principle, that technology leadership is not only about introducing new products. It is equally about consistently improving existing ones, making electric mobility more practical, more accessible, and progressively closer to mainstream adoption. So far I've spoken of what we have built. I'd now like to shift the discussion to how our engineering capabilities themselves have evolved. You see, our early products were designed to establish the category, to accelerate customer adoption, and to build confidence in electric vehicles. That phase required speed, learning, and rapid market development. Shailesh alluded to some of it through the large amount of data that we were constantly crunching at the back end. But today, we are entering a next phase of our journey, and our focus is increasingly on purpose-built EV architectures, technologies which are designed from the outset for electrification, and engineering platforms that can efficiently support multiple products and future generations of innovation. The active EV architecture represents a key milestone in that direction. Together with our multi-format battery strategy, it provides the flexibility to address diverse customer requirements while allowing the technology to be deployed efficiently across the platform and across the portfolio rather. The significance of this transition extends well beyond individual products. And in a way, it reflects the maturation of our engineering capability from bringing EVs to market to building a scalable technology ecosystem that can continue to evolve alongside customer expectations and technological progress. Now, as our engineering has evolved, engineering capability has evolved, so has our ambition. Today, our objective is not only to offer the broadest EV portfolio, but also to make advanced technology accessible across the heart of the market. You can see this philosophy being reflected across 4 key dimensions of the ownership experience. The first is energy intelligence, with capabilities like vehicle to load, V2L, or vehicle to vehicle, V2V, that extend the usefulness of the vehicle beyond mobility. The second is vehicle capability, because if you have technologies like quad-wheel drive, it just expands the environments and the conditions in which an electric vehicle can confidently operate. The third is driving confidence. Through features like the 540-degree view, the automated park assist, surround view, making everyday driving that much simpler and more intuitive. And finally, active safety with level 2 plus ADAS, bringing driver assistance technologies into mainstream EV market. While these may appear as individual customer features, they are very often enabled by common software, common electronics, and common vehicle architectures. And that common technology foundation allows us to scale innovation efficiently across the portfolio, ensuring that advanced technology is progressively available to a much wider set of customers. The cumulative effect of these strategic and technology choices that we made is reflected in the scale that we have achieved. Today, more than 300,000 electric vehicles are on Indian roads, and over 60% of the country's passenger EV park carries the Tata badge. That scale represents far more than market presence. It provides one of the richest sources of real-world EV operating experience in the country across diverse geographies, climates, and customer usage patterns. These learnings continue to shape and strengthen our engineering capability and help refine future products. At the same time, our continued focus on localization has enabled us to achieve more than 50% domestic value addition, which strengthens the resilience of the company, resilience of our supply chain, while aligning with national initiatives that encourage indigenous capability development. Taken together, these outcomes reflect more than leadership in today's market. They demonstrate the combination of customer acceptance, engineering maturity, ecosystem development that has underpinned our EV journey thus far. The question then is, where do we go from here? While we are encouraged by the progress we've made so far, we believe the larger opportunity is still ahead of us. Our ambition is closely aligned with the broader evolution of the Indian automotive market. Shailesh spoke in great details about that. We see the long-term potential for electric vehicles to account for more than 30% of passenger vehicle adoption in the country, driven by continued advances in technologies, expanding charging infra, supportive policy frameworks, and growing customer acceptance. Reaching that level of adoption will require sustained innovation across the industry, no doubt about it. It will need continued investments. And above all, it will need products that need and that make the electric mobility increasingly practical, accessible, and also compelling to our customers. But as I hope I have illustrated thus far, our efforts over the past several years have been directed towards building precisely those capabilities. Because for us, it's never about the next product launch. It's about helping shape the next phase of India's mobility journey. And that brings me to how our product roadmap is going to evolve to participate in that next journey, next opportunity. If the opportunity ahead is larger, our roadmap must evolve accordingly, right? Over the next 24 months, we've got a very clearly defined launch cadence that builds upon the strength of our existing portfolio while introducing new products into the segments that will expand our addressable market as well as the customer choices. As you can see, this roadmap includes both new nameplates and the continued enhancement of our existing products through refreshes and facelifts, because we view both of these as equally important. New products allow us to participate in emerging opportunities and evolving customer preferences, while continuous development and evolution of existing product ensures that our portfolio remains contemporary and competitive throughout its life cycle. The Sierra.EV, which we have already showcased and unveiled earlier, represents the next chapter in that journey. Alongside that, we have additional products under development that will progressively strengthen the portfolio and in the coming product cycles. Together, this reflects a disciplined approach to portfolio management. It's not a series of isolated launches, but a sustained cadence of innovation that allows us to participate meaningfully in the continued expansion of the Indian EV market. As we look ahead, we believe that sustained success in electric mobility will increasingly be determined by excellence in a few core technology domains. For us, these domains are battery technology, integrated powertrain systems, and thermal management, because together they influence the attributes that matter the most to the customers: range, charging experience, efficiency, performance, durability, and overall cost of ownership. These technologies do not stand still, because every advancement strengthens the product and every new generation creates opportunities for further improvement. This is where scale becomes an advantage, because better technology enables more competitive products, and more competitive products drive wider adoption and greater scale. Now, that greater scale accelerates learning, strengthens engineering capability, and provides the foundation for the next generation of technology improvements. That virtuous cycle sits at the heart of our long-term technology strategy. Let me briefly illustrate how each of these technology pillars continue to evolve. The three technology pillars that I've just described are not independent work streams. They represent areas of continuous advancement, and our objective is to strengthen each one of them with every meaningful product intervention. Let me begin with the battery technology. Our successive product generations we've driven improved real-world driving range. I spoke about that. Today, delivering between 2 and 3 times the usable range of our earliest products. Charging capability has advanced equally well, with charging speeds now improving up to 3 times, while higher energy density technologies have enabled approximately 20 to 23% improvement over our first generation batteries. Together, these advancements continue to improve the customer value equation. Our powertrain architecture has also improved substantially. We began with standalone electronic control units. Today, we are moving towards significantly higher levels of integration. And that integration delivers measurable improvements in efficiency, oftentimes up to 12%, while also improving packaging, simplifying system architecture, and enabling increasingly intelligent energy management systems across the vehicle and vehicle platforms. The third pillar is thermal management. Now, it may not always receive the same attention as batteries and powertrains, but it plays an equally critical role in determining the overall ownership experience. Our continued advances in thermal systems has improved operating performances, reduced noise levels, and extended service life by as much as 3 times. Taken together, these 3 pillars reflect a consistent engineering philosophy. Rather than viewing innovation as a series of occasional breakthroughs, we see technology as a disciplined process of continuous improvement, where every product intervention leaves the technology stronger than before. As electric mobility moves beyond the early adopters and into the early majority, the factors influencing customer choices naturally begin to evolve. At this stage, widespread adoption is shaped less by novelty and increasingly by the overall value proposition. Customers expect electric vehicles to become progressively more affordable, more practical, and easier to own in everyday life. Our roadmap is therefore focused on strengthening 5 key levers that we believe will continue to accelerate this transition. The first one is affordability, which is by progressively narrowing the price premium over comparable IC engines. The second is real-world range, ensuring that usable range continues to improve in line with customer expectations. The third is charging speed, reducing the time required to get customers confidently back on the road. Beyond the product itself, ownership confidence remains equally important, which also includes things like reliability, battery assurance, service readiness, and the confidence that customers derive from an increasingly mature EV ecosystem. And finally, the continued expansion of the charging ecosystem will make electric vehicles, electric mobility, progressively more convenient and accessible across a broader range of journeys. Together, These 5 levers define how we intend to continue enhancing the EV value proposition. As each one improves, electric mobility becomes increasingly compelling choice for a wider section of the market, supporting the next phase of EV adoption in the country. If I were to therefore bring everything together, it comes down to one simple framework. We view our EV strategy as 3 reinforcing layers, each strengthening the other. The first is the strength of today's portfolio, a broad range of products underpinned by advanced technology allows us to participate across the largest part of the market and build meaningful scale. The second is continuous product evolution, continuous product development. Now, through a disciplined launch cadence and ongoing enhancement of every product, we continue to strengthen the expectations, the customer value proposition, as well as the sustained technology advancements. Continued progress in battery technology, integrated power electronics, and next-generation thermal systems provide the engineering foundation that enables us to improve the product with every successive generation, making it more capable, more efficient, and more competitive. What makes this framework particularly powerful is the way in which these 3 layers reinforce and work with each other. Portfolio builds scale. The portfolio breadth builds the scale. Scale then enables us for continued investment in technology. The better technology strengthens the competitiveness of each product that we introduce or enhance, and that in turn expands the portfolio further. The cycle then repeats. It is this compounding cycle of products, technology, and scale that gives us confidence in our ability to continue participating meaningfully in India's electric mobility journey over the next few years. I would like to conclude by saying that when we began our EV journey, our objective was simple. It was to make electric mobility a practical reality for Indian customers. Over the years, that journey has evolved far beyond launching new products. It's been about building technology. It's been about developing engineering capability. It's been about scalable product portfolio, strengthening localization, building customer confidence, and contributing to the ecosystem that electric mobility requires to thrive. As the market enters its next phase of development, we believe that these capabilities would become all the more important. Technologies would continue to evolve. Customer expectations will continue to rise. The market itself will mature. Our responsibility is to ensure that every product intervention, every technology upgrade, and every engineering decision that we make, every choice that we make, continues to strengthen the value proposition that we deliver to our customers. Because ultimately, sustainable leadership is not built through a single product, a single platform, or a single breakthrough. It is built through very disciplined execution, continuous innovation, and an unwavering commitment to improving the customer experience. And that's what brings me to the thought that I think I should leave you with. We didn't just start India's EV revolution, but we are building the technology and the ecosystem that will also sustain it. Thank you very much.
Since morning, I've heard Sailesh say a few times, it's all about quality and control. So we have the next 2 sessions dedicated to product quality and cost control. Maybe I invite Mr. Mohan to first come on stage, please. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this session after the break. Okay. So let me take it ahead from where Shailesh and Anand left off and give you a small context of our growth. Over the last few years, we have scaled our volumes nearly 5-fold, from about 130,000 units in FY20 to around 640,000 units in FY26. At the same time, our portfolio has expanded significantly, from 6 to 15 products across ICE and EVs. This scale-up has been about broadening our presence across segments, strengthening our relevance in the market, and building a portfolio that addresses a much wider set of customer needs. This growth is not linear. It comes with a fundamental step up in complexity across every part of the value chain. Our products are becoming much more sophisticated with higher software content, increasing electrification, new tech, and stricter regulatory requirements. At the same time, customer expectations on quality and overall ownership experience continue to rise. The challenge is about scaling consistently and predictably. In this context, quality is no longer just an operational metric. It is a strategic lever for growth. Our approach has been to build quality through the value chain, end to end. We are moving away from inspection-led approach, where quality is checked and corrected at the end, to a design and system-led approach, where quality is built in from the beginning. What this means in practice is quite straightforward. It starts with designing products right the first time. It involves strengthening engineering validation, so issues are identified much earlier. It requires deeper collaboration with our suppliers, integrating them early in our product development. It demands more stable and capable manufacturing processes. And finally, it ensures that what leaves our plants is exactly what the customer experiences. So this is not a single intervention. It's a shift in how we think about quality across the life cycle. And importantly, we are making quality an enterprise-wide responsibility. It is no longer confined to a function. It is owned across product development, manufacturing, supply chain, and all our customer-facing teams. We are beginning to see a clear change in our product quality. All our new generation products are inherently superior, with quality engineered into the architecture itself. And this is not accidental. It is driven by a structured focus on improving core product fundamentals. We have made significant improvements in ride and handling, driving capability, cabin refinement, and digital experience. These are all tangible aspects that customers interact with every day, and therefore directly influence their perception of quality. Equally important, this progress is being recognized externally in independent reviews, media feedback, and expert evaluations. So what we are seeing is not just an internal view, but improving external perception as well. A key part of this transformation is how we are engineering quality into our products. We are consciously moving upstream, building safety, durability, and robustness into the design itself, rather than relying on detection and correction later in the process. This begins with much better structural design and material selection. It extends into stronger validation practices aligned with real-world usage. We are also focusing on validating systems much earlier, so that interaction between systems are understood upfront. This is particularly important because modern vehicles are no longer a collection of independent components. They are highly integrated systems. As a result, this approach is enabling us to improve reliability in a much more structured and predictable way. It reduces surprises, shortens feedback loops, and builds more confidence in our products before they reach the customer. As vehicles become increasingly software-defined and electrified, quality in these domains also becomes critical. On the software side, we are bringing in stronger integration ownership within the organization and with partners, ensuring that system interactions are validated more rigorously. On the electrification side, the one that Anand mentioned. We are strengthening battery architecture, improving battery management systems, and leveraging connected technologies to monitor performance in the field. Like Anand mentioned, we have data for 15 billion kilometers worth data. We are also beginning to see early improvements, particularly in software and battery-related issues in the field. Manufacturing is a critical enabler for quality at scale. Our focus here has been on building stable and capable processes that can deliver consistency. This includes investing in modern infrastructure, digitization, and real-time monitoring systems. At facilities like Sanand, we are piloting next-generation systems that allow faster detection of issues and quicker resolution. The result is greater control, better traceability, and improved repeatability. And this is essential as quality is not achieved through inspection. It is achieved through process discipline. An equally important part of a journey is how we engage with our supplier ecosystem. We are moving from a transactional model to a more integrated and collaborative approach. This starts with early supplier involvement in product development so that quality is built into designs right from the beginning. We are strengthening joint validation processes, ensuring that parts and systems are evaluated together and not in isolation. We are also working with partners to build capabilities in emerging technologies. And the objective is very clear: to improve quality upstream rather than correcting issues downstream. Our effort does not end at manufacturing. We are equally focused on ensuring that the quality we build is delivered to customer without compromise. And this is what Shailesh meant when he said that we are ensuring that all the trucks that leave the plant are always carrying the quality that was produced with the plant duly inspected. And this involves strengthening dispatch processes and ensuring vehicles that leave the plant are meeting defined quality standards. We are also enhancing logistics to maintain product integrity during transit. And this includes ensuring that each truck is locked in a way that is tamper-proof and is opened only at the dealership. And even then, to ensure that everything goes well, we are digitizing delivery processes to improve visibility and consistency at the final handover stage, so that what we build is exactly what the customer experiences. All these efforts are now beginning to translate into measurable improvements. We are seeing a clear reduction in early life issues, which is a strong indicator of our initial product quality. At the same time, we are also beginning to see early signals of improvement in long-term ownership experience. Now, these are early signs, but they're important because they validate the direction we are taking. They demonstrate that structured interventions in quality are beginning to deliver outcomes. At the same time, we are very clear that a lot more distance needs to be covered in our quality journey. We need to continue improving both product and service quality, and more importantly, translate that into consistent customer experience. This requires a sustained effort, discipline, and alignment across the organization, and all of us are fully committed to this journey. With this momentum, we are now moving into a next phase of quality journey. Our ambition is clear: to deliver world-class quality, durability, and reliability across our entire portfolio. This means not just improving fits and finish, but ensuring a consistently strong experience across the full life cycle of ownership. To enable this, we are focusing on 4 key shifts. The ones that Shailesh mentioned, just reworded here as predictive quality, built-in quality, leveraging AI, and finally, total quality management. Together, these shifts will allow us to sustain and scale quality as we grow. A key enabler in our next phase is a shift from reactive to predictive quality. We are building the capability to detect early signals, predict outcomes, and prevent issues before they manifest. This is being driven through stronger software capabilities, including on one hand, things called Sill and Hill, and on the other hand, leveraging SDVs that will help us update cars with new features and bug fixes during life cycle. We are also strengthening system-level integration and validation, ensuring interactions across systems are tested early and factors of safety are constantly improved. And finally, digital engineering and diagnostics are enabling CI/CD, or continuous improvement and continuous deployment, across the life cycle, keeping the car always fresh. The second shift is towards built-in quality. We are moving beyond detecting or correcting issues to designing processes and systems where errors simply do not occur. At the same time, we are investing in modern infrastructure and consistently upgrading our facilities to enable higher precision and repeatability. The result is a far greater consistency and reliability in our output. The third enabler is leveraging AI to scale quality. This allows us to move towards a system that continuously learns from data across engineering, manufacturing, and the field, which is then used to detect patterns earlier, predict issues, and increasingly prevent them at source. By connecting data across the life cycle, we are creating a closed-loop system that continuously improves with scale. Over time, this will only accelerate both the speed and the consistency of our quality improvements. The final enabler is making quality a way of life across the organization. And to do this, we have embarked on the TQM journey. Systems alone are not enough. Sustained quality also needs ownership at every level. We are embedding TQM through strong customer centricity, disciplined processes, active employee participation, and deeper supplier partnerships. This is reinforced by structured problem solving and a culture of continuous improvement. To sum up, we are building strong products backed by disciplined execution and a relentless focus on quality, ensuring growth that is consistent, scalable, and trusted. Thank you. May I now invite Sudhir on stage?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think Shailesh spoke about growth. After me, our CFO, Dhiman, is going to talk about profitability and financials. Our supply chain transformation program that we've undertaken is going to marry growth and profitability. In next few slides, I'm going to talk about how we are going to achieve it, both across our EV as well as ICE portfolio. What are the business imperatives today? I think doubling the volumes, we heard Shailesh say that, double-digit EBITDA margins because we need that to finance our product plan as well as expansions. We are expanding our portfolio and the tech content in our products is rising. Our manufacturing footprint is going to increase because we need capacities. Uncertainty in global supply chain is something that we have all learned to live with now. I think every 1 or 2 years there is something or the other which keeps happening, whether it is geopolitical issues or other issues. And what are the implications on supply chain because of all this? I think one thing is very clear, we'll have to expand our supplier capacities multifold to match these growth aspirations. Our cost structures have to get aligned with our benchmark or probably do even better in terms of, especially in the EV business, we being the market leader there. We'll need to scale the co-creation with our suppliers through early involvement because that's how we'll be able to develop new tech faster and bring to the market at a affordable price. We'll have to adapt to our new supplier manufacturing footprints close to our locations. Last but not the least, in order to make our supply chain more agile and more responsive, we'll have to drive a very, very deep localization. How are we going to build our supply chain resilience as well as grow our capacities? I think the complexity in the supply chain in the last few years has grown multifold because the number of parts have gone up, the tech content, the electronic content in the vehicle has gone up. What is more important, which is probably often goes unnoticed, is that the value delivery from tier 2, tier 3 has actually gone up. I think a few years ago, you must have heard people talking about the tier 1s becoming tier 0.5. Today, actually, tier 1s are struggling to remain even tier 1 because the buying power actually has shifted to the tier 2, especially in case of semiconductors. How do we respond to this? I think there are two themes on which we are working parallelly and simultaneously. One is the digital theme, and second is the hard capacity. The digital theme, we are creating a supply chain control tower so that we have entire visibility, so that anything that happens at the end tier level, we are able to respond it faster. I think the success in supply chain comes with early information. So faster we get the information, the better it is. We are trying to use the digital and AI tools to make sure that any event that happens at any part of the world, how does it impact my supply chain? I think currently, as we speak, there is a pilot which is ongoing, whereby a particular event in a particular geography, I can actually trace it back to a particular part number of how that part number may get impacted because of that event. I think with the help of our digital AI team, we are working on that as a pilot. On the hard part, clearly, localization, alternate sources, as well as proximity to our manufacturing plant of our vendors, especially in case of Sanand, where we are going to expand multifold. I think we'll have our vendor base coming much, much closer and operating out of that. One of the key differentiating factors for us with respect to others is, Shailesh spoke about how our growth is going to be underpinned by EVs and CNG, and therefore, powertrain-specific strategies in terms of capacity growth is something that we are working on very, very aggressively. I think coming to cost reduction, which is directly linked to our profitability, our cost reduction engine, it's a very, very well-oiled engine. It's been delivering 2 to 2.5% every year, but it's not enough. While we have a very good mechanism to track it, to deliver those kind of numbers, but we clearly see that the gap between us and the competition is about 5 to 6%. So despite delivering year over year 2 to 2.5% cost reductions, we still have a gap of about 5 to 6%, which obviously gets reflected in our EBITDA margin. How do we bridge this gap is something that we have worked upon. And as we move forward, all our new vehicles are getting sourced through design to cost. So we are trying to inbuild in design a cost efficiency. At the same time, when we source those parts, we are actually sourcing to a target cost and not allowing it to go beyond the target that we have fixed for that particular vehicle. Vehicle architectural interventions, as we are growing in volumes, it allows us opportunity to make some hard interventions in the architecture so that we are able to get the benefit of standardization and modularity at the scale, as well as increasing localization, because volume allows you to take care of all these benefit of all these three levers. Powertrain optimization, it's a continuous journey. I think powertrain as an ICE business, has been traditionally, a few years ago, being thought that it is a dying business. And therefore, the innovation of which was happening in the EV world has not kept pace in powertrain. But this is where I think we are re-engaging with our suppliers and trying to make sure that there are continuous improvements happening even in powertrain technology so that we can bring the cost optimization there. Just to give you some examples of how we are going to achieve this 5 to 6% cost reduction on the ICE side over and above what we've already achieved. Lightweighting of architecture and combination of parts. I think this is something we have started and we are actually going to accelerate it. It is going to give us an incremental 3 to 5% in that particular area. Deeper localization. I'll just give you an example. I think the sunroof penetration in the Indian market has increased so much that Sierra, actually, we have almost 70% of our orders are with sunroofs. Now, traditionally, what has been happening is people will just buy the glass locally, import everything else, including the motors, and just do the local assembly. Now with the volumes and scale, we are insisting that if you want to get new business from me, you have to localize my motors, you have to localize my guide rails, and thereby passing on the localization benefit. So it helps me in two ways. It reduces the cost, it reduces the exposure to the forex. At the same time, it also improves my agility to be able to respond to the supply chain requirements. Powertrain optimization, I spoke about it a little bit. Again, see, traditionally, the ICE powertrain suppliers have been multinational, especially all the proprietary suppliers. And their endeavor has been to use their unused capacities overseas and just bring the parts from there and dump them in India. What we are insisting them now is, if you want to play with us, you have to localize. Now, it is easier said than done. But as a leverage, what we are trying to do is, we know our EV portfolio is growing. All these traditional ICE guys also want to play in the EV space. So we are telling them, if you want to partner us, if you want to enjoy the EV volumes with us, you better play well in the traditional ICE powertrain side. And we are already seeing the fruits of the benefits coming there, realization. Last but not the least, but very, very important aspect is consolidation of electronic architecture. I think, as I've spoken earlier, that the electronic content is increasing, but that's also giving us an opportunity how I can consolidate my E&E architecture, reduce the number of ECUs, reduce the length of cabling, and get the benefit. So what it does is it helps us in reducing the cost, but at the same time increasing the feature offering that I can give even on my entry-level vehicle, thereby improving my value proposition to the end customer. I think on EV side, I think there is so much to do. We've already done a lot. I think you saw what Anand shared with us, but there is so much still to do. Yesterday itself, we were talking about battery pack costing for our next model. At least on the paper, we were able to arrive at numbers which were not very, very different than what China is doing today. Yes, I think you heard it right. We were actually able to arrive at very, very close to what China per kilowatt non-cell cost is. I think we have to translate that into a reality, which we feel quite confident with the recent experiences that we have. EDU's integration is the name of the game here, and localization is the second name. I think we are working very, very strongly on these two areas and quite confident to be able to deliver the kind of reductions that I've put up there. Power electronics, another area, increasing localization, increasing local assemblies, use of chips at least packaged locally, something that we'll be able to leverage upon. Other HV aggregates, Anand spoke about the thermal area. I think there are other aggregates where combining functions, packaging the components together, there's a lot of opportunity to be able to do cost reduction there as well. One thing which I forgot to mention in our electronic localization piece, from 12 to 18 months down the line, sometime third quarter of next year, Tata Car would be the first car in India to use a locally assembled system on chip. So it's a semiconductor which will be locally assembled. So we will be the first in the country to be able to do that. So I think that tells us that the depth of localization that we are actually going to. I think all this can be achieved only if we have very, very strong partnership with our suppliers. And what are we offering to them? Today, my top 20 suppliers actually have 50% of my buying. I'm offering to them that I'll take it to about 65% in next 3 to 4 year time. What do you give me in return? You give me your best engineers to work upon so that I can get the best technology and the speed that I need to introduce in the market. You give me early involvement. You give me best cost for the given feature, and you put up dedicated capacities for me. But we are not stopping just at the tier ones. We are actually going and extending our partnerships into toolings, because that is going to become the next bottleneck. With the series of launches that I have in next 2 to 3 years, I need a lot of tooling capacity. And therefore, we are working with some of the tooling partners to get engaged with them and book capacities so that I don't fall short of tooling capacities. I told you about the system on chip collaborations. Again, something that we are going beyond the tier one in terms of getting all of that together. I believe firmly that whatever we are showing you today, I think next year when we meet, a lot of it would be delivered, and looking forward to a very, very profitable growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir. We've heard, four very interesting presentations today, and I hope they've well articulated all the levers that we have in front of us to sustain our industry-beating growth over the long term. Before we turn into Q&A, I would like to take you through the financial translation of this transformation that we've been running since FY20. Let me start with where we are today. FY20, we were subscale. Last year, we closed the year with a top line of 58,000 crore. That's almost a 33% compounded annual growth in top line. And we emerged as the second largest brand towards the second half of H2 FY26. We've executed this with a lot of discipline. Our capital allocations or our investments have been at about 7% of revenues over the last 6 years. We've operated within our financial envelope, especially in the initial years, focusing on strengthening our brand equity of the existing portfolio and later on selectively investing in new nameplates for growth. More importantly, we've mainstreamed and electrified our portfolio. And this has helped us sustain our market leadership, even though we've seen the industry competitive intensity increase manifold over the last 12 months. So what do we have? So I think we've built the foundation where we are able to massively scale this business, a broad-based multi-powertrain portfolio prudently. And this is what remains central to our financial strategy as we execute the next chapter of our growth. This slide kind of exemplifies what I spoke about, the principles that we are working with. Between FY20 and 24, the pricing regime was favorable. Our volume scaled, fixed cost compressed, and we had a textbook style massive rapid expansion in margins between 20 and 24. We've been seeing a very different environment in the last 2 years. Pricing has been benign. Industry discounting has increased. And since second half of last year, commodities have also started inching up. We've, however, continued to make the foundation investments that we need to secure our growth over the next 5 years. What that meant, we've continued investing in the brand equity. We've built strong brands. You've seen Nexon and Punch emerge as the most popular SUVs in the country. Anand spoke about how we've been improving the value proposition of EVs. So they continue to be, or they start becoming more active choices for our customers rather than be on the fringes. But we've done all of this very responsibly and very prudently. We've used PLI to offset our EV mix. We've kept our fixed costs very tight, and you'll see that operating leverage kicking in. And we've done massive levels of cost reduction, and Sudhir spoke about it, to offset some of the other adverses and hold margin steady. So that's really, in the last 2 years, that's what we've been operating. How does FY27 look for us? I think it's fair to say the environment is going to be dynamic. And why do I say so? The domestic demand continues to be robust. We are seeing an increased demand for EVs. But on the flip side, commodities are running at a very elevated levels. And local supply side issues persist. But we carry very strong momentum from FY26 into this year. And we are very confident that we are going to outperform the industry with a very compelling portfolio. The strength, the breadth of our EV portfolio that we've been investing over the years, that should play out with the rising EV demand. We don't expect commodities to ease off very quickly. Maybe, hopefully, it should start easing in H2, but not in the medium term. And, we will see slight dilution in our mix because of the shifts in portfolios and demand patterns that we are seeing. We'll still manage them through maximizing PLI, cost reductions, and some moderate price increases we'll be taking while very carefully cultivating demand. Bottom line, demanding environment, we continue to be agile, deliver on our growth, and keep margins stable. Yeah, I think Sudhir just spoke about it, but I have this slide here, kind of reiterating that accelerated cost reductions is going to be one of the central themes for closing out on the margin gap. We've got a well-oiled engine, delivering almost 2% per annum cost reductions year on year. What that has done for us, like I mentioned, it has helped us invest in our portfolio, build the brands, offset some of the other adversities that we have seen while stabilizing our margins. The consistent year-on-year delivery that we've seen, it reassures us that we will be able to close the margin gap while we deliver on all the other priorities over the next 5 years. I think Shailesh, Anand, Sudhir all touched upon the growth of EVs that's going to be central to our strategy over the next 5 years. And the next immediate question would be, I guess in the room is, how do we sustain our margins post PLI? But we've been looking at PLI for what it is supposed to be. It's a bridge. It's a bridge to rapidly increase volumes, do deep structural interventions, localize, and drive costs down. And that's exactly what we've been doing. So where we are today, if we strip off PLI, we are near EBITDA break-even. And, if we look forward the next 3 years, our first priority is to maintain the margins by FY29. That's when PLI strips off. We expect that to happen primarily through mix improvement and the balance through, fixed cost leverage that we will see because of the massive scale-up in the business. Structural cost reductions on an accelerated basis continue. But for the next 3 years, we expect that to offset commodity as well as some of the value proposition improvements that we will continue driving that Anand spoke about. We are still not there, so there's still some work left. And this is not something that we are going to start today, right? This is a journey that we've been doing for the last few years, and you've been delivering those gains. And we are very confident that we will continue and deliver on our guidance for FY29. We expect limited benefit from price increases in the immediate years as we continue driving parity towards ICE. But emission costs are likely to go up, and that provides the price tables are likely to shift, and that will provide us the incremental headroom to drive the margins of this business towards double digit. Yeah. Looking ahead, I think you'd have heard all the speakers present, so essentially it's a summary of what you've heard today. Our strategy is going to be rests on 2 pillars that we execute concurrently. One is that our portfolio intensity is likely to go up. We are going to continue investing in our brand portfolio that we've been establishing over the last 6 years. That's going to be pinned on our abilities and our capabilities in design, technology, and the quality initiatives that Mohan talked about. The profitability of our dealers and their engagement, they are going to be very integral to retain customer trust as we need to sustain our growth. We've always been financially prudent, but next 5 years will also see us emerge with a lot of financial resilience. Central to that is the accelerate material cost reductions that we will do and drive even steeper reductions for EV. I think you'd have noted in Sudhir's slide that the % reductions in EV components is far, far higher, and the potential is far higher than we have in ICE. We've always been very disciplined on fixed cost, but we expect to gain incrementally as we scale over the next few years, and operating leverage will still play out. And obviously, we will, that's going to help us generate SCF as well. So the point is that, balance between growth and profit, we've been managing it very, very carefully. And that's going to remain a cornerstone of how we see the next 5 years too. Yeah. So, I spoke about this. It's essentially a slide on how we are kind of driving the transformation over a decade, starting from FY20. It has required, it has demanded a lot of execution rigor, and it has required us to make a lot of deliberate choices which have had financial implications along the way. But what we are looking at is potentially a 140,000 crore top-line business in FY31 on a 1.2 million per annum volume delivery for the year. And, compounding effect of gradual margin expansion that you see over the years is going to help us deliver a 5 times improvement in our profit before tax. What I would like to call out is that, we are going to execute this keeping multiple priorities in mind. One is industry-leading growth. Second is mainstreaming of EVs. We've got to navigate the PLI transition in the way, as well as, rapidly invest in our portfolio and our capacity. And hence our margins may not always move linearly, but we are very confident that we are going to deliver on the next 5 years scale along with profit acceleration. We've, on the capital allocation, we are going to be disciplined as ever. It's going to average around 7%, very similar to the last 6-year trends. But, it's likely to be higher than average in the initial 2 years because we need to get our capacities well ahead of demand. I think last year we had guided towards 35,000 crore over the last 5 years. It did not include capacity, but now our capacity expansion plans are in place, and that's why you see a 37 to 40,000 crore number. So with that, I would like to call upon Balaji Rajan to take us through the TMPV group priorities over the next 5 years.
Thank you, Dhiman. And as we look at the next 5 years, I think our critical priority and intent is to transform from 2 businesses to one of the world's leading integrated auto majors that addresses complementary markets, segments, and products. So as you can see, TMPV's mainstream brands will continue to be very strongly rooted in India and will grow in double digits. But we'll also selectively enter some of the global markets with both ICE as well as EV products. Avinya will be a global premium brand from the TMPV stable, which will extend TMPV's presence to the near luxury segment as well. JLR, as you know, has a house of brands, and it'll continue to separate and further premiumize its house of brands, which includes Discovery, Defender, Range Rover, and Jaguar, which will all cater to the luxury segment across all major markets. So combined, we'll have one of the widest portfolios of any OEM, from entry-level hatchbacks to luxury SUVs across our brands. And this, of course, caters to specific markets across the world. But what we also have is very strong synergies that will underpin our success over the next 5 years. Oh, I'm so sorry. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, so we will also have strong synergies that will underpin our success. The first among them is batteries. As you know, both TMPV and JLR will benefit from Agratas, which is the Tata Group's battery venture. We'll also derive significant synergies across the supply ecosystem, which will optimize costs for all of our brands. And this is particularly true when it comes to software and digital technologies, as these are not directly linked to product attributes, so they can serve the entire portfolio. As TMPV also scales up its international presence, JLR's retailer relationships and know-how in some of the overseas markets will also play a critical role in enabling TMPV's growth towards other global markets. But most importantly, the combined scale of all of our brands working together will help facilitate stronger strategic partnerships with third parties, which, as you know, are far more important in the coming years, given the state of the global automotive industry. Finally, as a group, TMPV will benefit from synergies with the wider Tata Group ecosystem across the value chain, whether it is in terms of technologies, components, software, or services. As we undertake this transition, we've identified the key priorities as a group to get us to this destination within the next 5 years. The foremost priority for the group is to drive double-digit revenue growth over the next 5 years. This will be realized through the strength of new product launches as well as continued focus on market excellence. Particularly in case of JLR, the enterprise-level transition towards North America will fuel growth, while addressable market expansion and market share growth that Shailesh spoke about earlier will fuel the growth of the India business. For both businesses, customer experience and quality will play a pivotal role by driving loyalty and retention. Our focus will also continue towards ensuring a profitable network that is well aligned to the growth agenda. Second, we will place a specific focus on technology upliftment. While launching industry-changing EVs continues to be a key pillar for both businesses, and as you saw, one of the most critical growth drivers for the India business, we'll continue to also focus on driving greater efficiencies in ICE powertrains to keep them competitive. This is particularly necessary for some of the overseas markets. We're also investing significantly in software-developed vehicles, ADAS, and AI to enhance customer value and to bring greater freshness to our portfolio. As we heard earlier today, it is important to leverage SDV to continue to retain the value of the vehicles going forward. Third, with the growing capital demands for integration of new technologies, we have taken capital efficiency as a critical imperative across the group. So one of the most critical levers is the reduction of product cycle times, and supporting that would be optimal choices of make, buy, and partner so that we can optimize our capital investments. At the same time, material cost reduction will be a key lever to enhance profitability and unlock funding for the critical investments that are needed in technology. Of course, all of this will be complemented by a reduction in fixed costs, particularly in case of JLR, where we spoke about enterprise missions in the JLR Investor Day. Fourth, the uncertainties over the last year have firmly reinforced the need for greater resilience in the business. So the multiple aspects of this resilience will include, first, supply chain and operations resilience to decouple the business from geopolitical headwinds. At the same time, we will focus on building digital resilience, particularly in the context of the previous year. Planet resilience remains a critical focus area at a group level, and we will lead the way in sustainability in all of our respective segments. Finally, strategic partnerships are both a force multiplier and a risk mitigator in today's automotive environment. We will focus on collaborating with other OEMs and other players in the automotive value chain to enhance the competitiveness of our portfolios, to optimize our investments, to reduce lead times, and to deliver better customer experience. We believe that the above initiatives will take us to our rightful position in the automotive space as a leading global auto major. And Dhiman will take us through what it would mean in terms of financials. Thank you.
Thank you, Balaji. Yeah, sorry, just slides coming up. Yeah. Thank you, Balaji, for highlighting the group's, the initiatives. Before we conclude this session, what I would like to take you through is the aspirations for TMPV Group over the next 5 years. FY25 was our previous peak. We ended the year with 360,000 crore in top line, healthy margins, and a very strong balance sheet. We stepped into FY26. It was a challenging year for us. The headwinds for US tariffs, China weakness, they are impacts of the headwinds that we carry in our P&L going forward. Hence, we see FY27 and FY28 as period of recovery versus progression. And as Balaji mentioned, as we, the priorities are very clear for us. Brand-led double-digit revenue growth, executed with a lot of financial discipline, collaborations, supply chain and manufacturing excellence, material cost reduction programs, and the enterprise missions which are already underway. Our first priority is to recover to our profitability that we saw in FY27 by FY29, but that's only the first milestone. As the brand strengthens, as we accelerate our volumes and the financial discipline compounds, we hope to deliver a 5 billion PBT in the next 5 years and emerge as one of the leading global auto companies globally. And that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what you would have heard in UK last week and what you would have heard today is what we are building towards. Thank you.
First part of it, may I invite all the speakers from this morning to come on the stage, please? This afternoon, rather. Mr. Sailesh, Anand, Mohan, Dhiman, Sudhir. So anybody interested in asking a question, kindly raise your hands, and we have 4 people carrying the mics. One of them will reach you.
Hi team, thanks for the detailed presentation. This is Binay from Morgan Stanley. My first question is on our 2031 guidance on EBIT margin, which is around 5%. When I compare it with our peers, already 2 of our peers are at higher margins than 5%. In fact, even in terms of revenue, your revenue will be much higher than some of your peers are today. So the question is, are you being conservative when you're guiding for 5% EBIT margin for 2031, or you think that the industry has so many challenges in terms of emissions, CAFE, EV, that the margin itself for the industry will trend down? That is the first question on how to think about the FY31 margin guidance. Second one is on partnerships. There's been a lot of news flow about India business also doing partnerships, whether it is with Stellantis or even with Chery on the Avinya platform. Could you share your thoughts on where are we on that journey?
Okay, maybe I'll first touch upon the partnerships. It is true that there has been partnership discussions within the ecosystem, especially the partners whom we have been working with, either us or JLR. And the Chery JLR partnership has been strong. And when we were exploring Avinya, which was our first entry into a luxury electric vehicle segment, we wanted to be sure on the technical maturity. The level of tech which was required was of different level, and therefore we had started working with JLR on that, especially on the Freelander platform. And for that, we were exploring platforms, within the trio of JLR, Chery, and us. And eventually, we froze on the Freelander platform, which was being taken forward by Chery, as you know. So that was the suited platform on one side, so that was the choice of the platform. But then around that, the design aspect of it, or for example, the vehicle integration, the localization, manufacturing and all is something which we will be doing ourselves. So it's a combination. done in a manner that brings out the best of best to deliver a product which is delivering on the value proposition that we want to deliver with Avinya, which is stunning design with a significant road presence, indulgent, premium in-cabin experience, and tech which aligns with what is expected in the luxury segment, and most importantly, with high degree of maturity, engineering maturity. So that's why we have taken that route, which is basically through JLR, we have kind of progressed on the Freelander underpinning. As far as Stellantis is concerned, it's a long-term partnership, which we had right from 2006-7, if I'm not wrong. And that has remained strong on the manufacturing side, as you know. Under a certain MOU that we had signed, there were different kind of opportunities, win-win opportunities that we were exploring. We are on the verge of finalizing it. We are yet to cross the milestone of a definitive agreement. But once we sign the definitive agreement, we will be jointly making a statement in terms of what those opportunities are. But yes, we are exploring the collaboration route actively. Dhiman, you would like to take on the margin?
Yeah. So, Binay, I wouldn't like to not compare, the margins of competition versus, now versus FY31, for the simple reason that the mix and the portfolios are going to be very different, right? We are, like I said, we are doing a scaling up of a broad-based portfolio which will have almost 30% EVs. Whether it's conservative or aggressive, I think that's why we have deliberately given a FY29 guidance, right? To kind of see, it's an important checkpoint to see, where we are tracking. And the third point is that I think that we called out that for the first 3 years, you've not really taken any price benefit in EVs. So you'll also need to see how the emission costs are moving up, how the price table of ICE moves, and what is the opportunity for us. So we expect that in FY31, EV margins will still might be a little lower than ICE, so that's why you see the 10% balance. But we go into FY31 and beyond in a much better place. I think the third point what we need to be careful on is that EV realizations are much more than ICE. Right? So when you're doing that transition, if you see the EBIT per vehicle or EBITDA per vehicle at that point of time, they're going to be equivalent. Right? So I think that's another part. So it's not really a fair comparison.
Can I request anybody asking the question to just give your name and your company's name? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, hi sir, this is Kapil from Nomura. First of all, thank you for this presentation. I felt that the clarity with which it was given was really good to understand how the various segments are evolving as per your team and how you have mapped the product plans according to that. So thank you very much for that. My first question is on the industry growth itself. Do you think that industry growth itself could be higher than 6 to 7% CAGR? And on the margin front, what we have seen in some of the markets is that the EV and ICE pricing has sort of come down as market has grown. Because everybody wants to increase market share, at least the top floor players are listed. So do you think there is a possibility that there could be far more margin pressure on account of competition than what we may be assuming? We have seen some of the players not raising prices at all despite severe commodity pressure. So just in light of that, your thoughts?
So, answering the first question, whether 6 to 7% is a slightly moderate assumption as far as growth rate is concerned. As I said that if you take a more 10 to 15 year picture, you see a 6 to 7% kind of a growth rate, which has been the growth rate for GDP also. So over a 10-15 period, you'll see that the industry will grow in that kind of a ballpark number. In the next 5-year period, it's a shorter duration than a 10 to 15 year time frame. It can be higher, it can be lower also, depending on how the macroeconomics also play out, how the transitions, between different powertrains also play out. So it will be dependent on both. And remember that the pricing is also going to increase going forward. And therefore, the interplay of all these factors, how is going to play out, can be up or down, right? But long-term, 6 to 7% is what we can expect. But I would reckon that it will not be very different You can check any 5-year phases and you will see, barring the 2010 to 15 phase, which was very different. So that's a response to question number one. Response to your second question, the last 1.5 year has been the part of the growth phase which has been a stagnant market. And when there is a stagnant market and the capacity addition is ahead, or investment into capacities and product is ahead of the market growth, then you come under pressure. And that is the phase we are going through in the last 2 years. And therefore, there is always a reluctance of the OEMs who have invested into new products, they have invested into new capacities, to play slightly more aggressive to achieve the numbers, targeted numbers that they had taken, and therefore there is a reluctance in taking price increase and all. The same behavior will not remain once the growth gets into double digit on a sustained basis. So you had seen the phase of 2020 to 2024, where the market was growing, the commodity prices were also going very high, semiconductor prices also had gone high. So when there is a demand which is significantly high, when the sentiments are strong, the OEMs don't shy, in terms of taking price increase. We have seen that phase also. So therefore, there is a bit of recency bias in that, but I think over a long period of time, every OEM is fixated on delivering the returns that is expected from the shareholders. So that would be my take on this.
Sure. Sir, I had a question on consolidated projections that we have given, and this is for the consolidated entity. We see that margins are inflecting after FY29. We see them going from 7% EBIT margins to 10%. Could you just talk us through what could be the drivers of increase in consolidated margins?
Sorry, I don't see because of the light. Kapil, can we take it after 5:30 when Balaji is also there?
I don't know. I mean, which session we need to take this?
We'll take it up at 5:30.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. This is Gunjan from Bank of America. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's quite informative. I had two questions. Firstly, just continuing with what Kapil asked in terms of growth, how would you think, more from the next 12, 18 months perspective, given that we're coming out of the GST base and, there is this concern around the whole fuel price inflation, etc. So how do we think about growth in fiscal 27, 28? And secondly, on the EV side, we've suddenly seen the narrative change. What is it that you're seeing in your portfolio? Can you talk a bit about the bookings that you're seeing on the EV portfolio? And how are we placed in terms of capacity ramp up to address that demand?
Yeah, so, your first question on 12 to 18 months growth for the industry, I think we have been reading a lot of numbers, different agencies have given more guidance of 5 to 7%. I have been consistent in saying that it will be double-digit growth, and at least for this financial year, because the demand has remained strong. Although there has been a low base effect of last May and June, of April, May, June, or quarter one, and same is going to play out in the quarter two also. But if you see in quarter one itself, as the quarter one will end on June 30th, the industry would have grown by nearly 3 lakhs. Additional 3 lakh would have got added in the first quarter itself. Now, a 10% growth versus last year would mean another 3.5, total of 4.5 lakh, 4.7 lakhs. In the next 3 quarters, I don't believe that we'll not be able to hit 1.5 lakh, which is 50% of what we have achieved in quarter one. Of course, H2 is going to be high base half, but still I strongly believe that the growth is going to be 10%, around that number. Now, the second question, which is on the trend, as far as PV and EV part is concerned, right? You talked about EV, right? The trend that we are seeing. So, and the capacity readiness, ramp up plan for that. So, if I see the last 2 to 3 months trend, which is triggered mostly because of not only the Mid-East crisis, but also because of some significant launches that we had since February. our EV bookings are trending more like 33-35% of our total bookings. But we are able to supply to the extent of 18% penetration. So we are supplying half of what the demand is, actually. And therefore, there is significant work to be done to ramp up the capacities, but we wanted to wait a bit. If there is some level of moderation which comes, if, for example, there is a truce, which happens as far as the Mid East crisis is concerned, we would have observed that and then we would have moderated that. But still, I would believe that the demand has shifted to a level of permanency which will be 25 to 30%. We will work on the ramp up in the coming months. We have a visibility of taking it up to twice of what we were doing last year. So that is something which Sudhir and the internal capacity teams are working towards.
Thank you, sir. Very comprehensive presentation. Raghu from Nuvama. Sir, firstly, on the pay commission, how do you see the potential opportunity? How do you see which price categories can benefit because of the implementation, and how we can benefit? And if you can also share what portion of our sales come from government employees. So that was the first question. Second, the FY29 margin target, is it fair to assume that 28 our margin will be higher and 29 it will moderate because of the PLI expiry?
So, the question number one, I would not have the exact percentage of how much we sell to the government, but we do list our products on the GEM portal to make it accessible for the government employees. I'll have to just check on, but it would be more 5% to 7%, if I'm not wrong, the government employee sales. Typically, it will trigger the less than 15 lakh segment. That is where the majority of the volumes are. And therefore, we are a company with that kind of a portfolio to service that. So yes, it will trigger, favorable response as far as our portfolio is concerned. On the second question on the margin, you would like to take that?
Yes, I think you're right. The FY29 is when PLI wears off, and that's when we had said 8%. So 28 will be with PLI, and it will be higher than 8%. And that's why deliberately our guidance is for FY29 and not 28, because that's a more structural reduction as to where we are trending.
Thanks for clarification, sir.
Hi, good evening. This is Kumar Rakesh from BNP Paribas. Thank you for taking my question. Shailesh, my first question was on the brand side. So my understanding is that in an auto business, the way you make money is, one part is the cost structure, how do you improve that? And the second part is your brand positioning, what the customer is willing to pay you for the particular brand. Now, if we look at a couple of your competitors, one is in the mass segment, so that's through scale, they're able to make money and better margin. And the other one has pivoted to a more premium positioning, high price point, and that's how they are making margin. Now, your positioning is very different, that you're present in both the segments. In the mass segment, but you don't have the scale to be able to match the margin which your peers are making. But you haven't pivoted enough to completely focus on the premium segment as well, so as to make better margin from that aspect. Now, whatever we discussed today in the model launch pipeline doesn't seem like that we are moving in one direction on either of these two things. Then how does that our profitability scenario changes and the volatility reduces that what we have seen?
One that the red clothes on top of the cars would not have given you a flavor of which direction the portfolio is shifting, but it is definitely shifting to the premium side is what I can confirm. Less on the smaller side. I mean, we will be going for enriching our model mix, for sure. You're right. And that's the reason why, it is also coinciding with a scenario where less than 10 lakh cars are becoming lesser and lesser in terms of volume growth opportunity, right? And therefore, that is one area where the cost positions accessed by some of the the leaders in that segment has reached a level where it is very difficult to match that because it has happened over a period of 15 years, 20 years. Consistent strengthening of the cost position as we are doing in EVs, by the way. And therefore, competing on cost and therefore generating margins in that segment is slightly difficult, but still can be done through surgical, actions in the architecture, right? Whether it is worth investing into it is a question, but it is possible. As far as brand is concerned, it is very important that you make money, especially, beyond a certain price point, based on your brand story and the strong associations that you build over a period of time. It happens over a period of time. The status of Tata Motors as a brand and what it used to be associated with in 2020 was significantly poor as compared to where we have reached. So the journey of strong brand associations around a certain pillar, I would still say is work in progress, but should be very strong by this end of decade. What is the proof point for that? Proof point for that is that your NPS used to be 10, 15, say 2020, around that point in time. Today you are at 52. You are the number 2 player as far as NPS is concerned, which is a strong indication of how your brand equity has been increasing. The 3 pillars which I talked about, there is a strong association of our brand on safety, design, and tech which is getting established. The more we strengthen our perceptions around quality and service, I think by the end of this decade, you should be seeing a significantly enhanced brand position to help us command premium in whichever segments we play. In 2020, we would have been discounted versus even a mass average brand by about 10% or so. And that's why you see the EBIT profile and all was bad. Today, we would be on par. Tomorrow, we should be in premium. So that is the journey that we are on. Therefore, in combination of strengthening brand equity, also given that we are strengthening our cost structures on the powertrains of tomorrow, we are in better control of that. And inclination of our portfolio towards more premium product, all in combination should help us.
Thanks.
And maybe just to add on that, sometimes it's not correct that, the higher you go, you make more money. Somewhere, as your products age, as they go through various life cycles, you get more time, you go more engineering innovation to kind of take costs out. So, right, so that's also how margins improve. So, it's both play and as well as the engineering innovation on the cost. Both are important.
Thanks, Dhiman, for saying that, because that was my second question, is despite what we have planned of almost moving market share to 20%, double 2x of the growth of the industry, our margin is likely to be about 8 to 10% in the next 5 years. But the capex intensity of the business will still stay very high, of close to 7% of revenue. Then how do we see the free cash flow generation as the business? Because it seems like it will remain challenging to generate free cash flow if the margin expansion is not accelerating. Is there another way of maybe delivering that growth, what Dhiman was talking about, optimizing the existing platform and driving more revenue through them or something else?
So, the 7% that you see is an average over the 5-year period. It's actually going to be higher than 7 in the initial years, because that's when your peak products, all the products that Shailesh spoke about, as well as the capacity expansion from 900 to 1 lakh, 1.3 million comes in. So you're in a peak capex phase in the next 2 years. So, and you don't have the revenues of the new products. So your average is going to be higher in the initial 2 years. It's going to be much lower, when you're going to tend towards 30, 31, when your all those products and the capacity is in place, right? So that's when you're talking about 10, maybe a capex of 5, 6. We'll have to see. So that's how you create that FCF. Yeah, and like I said, we are guiding towards 10, but obviously, there'll be further upsides on EV, and that's going to take you to where we want to be.
Hi, so I'm Param from Bernstein. So I had 2 questions. Firstly, from the presentation, there was nothing on hybrids. So is it safe to assume that Tata Motors won't go down the hybrid route in certain tail risk events that play out? Let's say battery costs don't reduce or public charging infrastructure doesn't improve. So is it, and we have seen that globally as well, whenever subsidies have taken out, hybrids continue to take up, but EVs fall. So that's my first question. And second question around the battery costs. So when do you expect battery costs to fall to a level when we see price parity between an ICE vehicle and an EV vehicle?
So I think, first I must confirm that our readiness for hybrid is already there. So if I have to introduce hybrid, if I see the traction and pull in the market, then I would, respond to that reactively. There's no need to proactively push for hybrids because you will see most of the manufacturers pushing for hybrids only if they are not able to meet their CAFE targets. The electrification growth and hybrid growth has been going along together. Both were at 2%, 2.5% kind of a penetration 2 years back. One has remained at 2.5%, the other will be exiting this year more around 8%. So the direction is very clear, and the last 2 years penetration story shows, and also the policy support, everything, even the pressures that you have to meet the CAFE requirement, acceptance of technologies by the customer towards electric, all is established. So I don't see a need for going proactively on hybrid and launching it, but I will be ready. We have kept ourselves protected for all the scenarios. It extends to PHEV, it extends to REEV. I think from our perspective, our advanced engineering work and investment that we do, we have kept ourselves ready for all the scenarios. Whether there are hybrids in the portfolio, we put in the ICE category, right? There will be certain segments, if we need it, we will be ready, right? So that's the response to that question. Please, what was your second question?
On the battery costs.
On the battery costs. You would like to respond?
So I think you saw in my presentation that we are continuously working on reducing the battery cost. But I think the name of the game in EVs will be higher value at price parity with ICE. I think that's what we are working towards in terms of what we offer to the customer. The cost will be a consequence of that.
See, I would just like to add to what he has said that, see, one is sell price. The other is sell to pack price. And which I think you covered it in your presentation. Any increase, what do you foresee in the next 1 or 2 years? And that itself is a question mark whether sell prices will still increase as it has been in the recent past. It's a question mark given how the decline in China is happening, which is the biggest consumer of battery cells. So that itself is a question mark. Hopefully it should moderate and if not go down. There will be short-term pressure because of the VAT benefit which is going away. But there are significant reduction possibility in the battery cell to pack. And that is where the work is happening, and therefore it will be able to offset that. On the price parity, I think I already mentioned in one of the slides that as far as the high EVs are concerned, which are cars greater than 20 lakh, we already have price parity. Rather, if you buy a Harrier EV, it will be a price less than an automatic car in the ICE world, with a 50% more torque and power, with additional features of automatic parking and so on. So you have higher power, you have higher set of new tech features at a lesser price than an automatic of ICE. So already price parity is there in that segment. Where price parity you don't have is in the entry side, where it is still at 10% premium. But I would not say it is 10% premium, it might be higher because our end state should be that these cars also have 400 plus kilometer of real range. So right now we are striking the balance of keeping it within 10% premium to keep it acceptable to the customers, but giving still a lower range battery pack, which is right now we have been able to touch 350 kilometers. But till we don't cross 400 kilometer and don't achieve price parity, it should be a journey of 3-4 years, not more than that.
Thank you for it.
Maybe in the interest of time, we'll just take one last question.
Thanks, Anish. Hi, this is Tarang from Old Bridge. So just checking from FY26 to FY31, end-to-end points, right? From 640,000 units, you've gone to about 1.2 million units. and ex-PLI EBIT margins at about 5%, ex-PLI EBIT margins at about 10% for the India business. Now, the target is that over the course of next 5 years, you'll also be able to prune your overall cost structure and get to anywhere between 500 to 700 pips of cost reductions. The question is, in this entire flywheel, the benefits of operating leverage are not kicking in a sizable manner, because all the pruning that happens at a gross margin. You're optimally utilized in FY31. So is this conscious? Because because of the market realities, new players coming in, you want to sort of encourage penetration of electric vehicles. Just wanted to sort of double click on that. And the second, you spoke about price parity between the Harrier EV and the Harrier ICE. As the supply chain matures, as you're able to get in those cost takeouts that you're looking for, say 5 years out, would a parity Harrier on a price basis would also make the same money in terms of margins? Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I understand your question right, you're talking about operating leverage, right?
Right.
So, like I mentioned last, in FY20 when we started off, we didn't have the luxury of being expansive in our fixed costs. So we've been very, very tight in our fixed cost discipline. And today, if we see, even if our volumes are lower than our revenues, if you see compared it to benchmarks, we are almost there, right? So FY26 is already good. So we will see some fixed cost leverage as we double our volumes, but that may be another maybe 1%, maybe 1.5%, not more than that. So if there is a margin gap that we need to cover of almost 5%, substantially all of it would come from cost reductions, where we also need to offset the PLI mix. So there will be, if you see in the deck, I had called out operating leverage, but yes, it's not going to be as substantial. I think, could you just repeat the question? It was on the price parity of...
Yeah, so you spoke about price parity between the Harrier EV and the Harrier ICE. As things would look today, my sense is Harrier EV would not be making that kind of margins as the Harrier ICE, because the supply chain is slightly nascent. But say 5 years out, if we were to sort of picturize that scenario, how would it look? Unless I'm grossly wrong.
Yes, you're grossly wrong, because we are actually making more margin.
Versus the ICE?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Not with, and PLI is an additional benefit.
Okay.
But that's not true for,
some of the other segments. Harrier, yes. But for the entry segments, I think we are using some of the PLI money to mainstream. We want to bring forward the adoption in certain segments. There is where we are using PLI money, right? But there is where all that got presented by Sudhir is going to play out, and the journey of cost reduction is going to be more intense. Frankly, we have not done much on the entry side because those were the first set of cars that we had made. So in the next cycle of upgrade, we are going to change all the subsystems towards cost. So that is also going to therefore throw big chunk of margin release.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we'll move on to the second part of the Q&A, which is we'll have the JLR team join. So can we have a please round of applause for them? Hi, Balaji Richard, can you hear us?
Hey, Sujan, can you hear us?
Okay, very much. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Thanks for waiting. We have a big crowd here, so we'll get started with the first question to the JLR team. Balaji, we just finished the India part of the Q&A, so this will be focused 30 minutes on your side. And as we know, we are doing this because we didn't have enough time at the JLR Investor Day meet. So thank you for joining. Okay, we can see some hands here. Binay, you want to go first? Okay, Kapil.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Sir, this is Kapil. Hope you can see me.
Yes, I can. Missed you here.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. Hopefully, we'll catch you up next time. So just wanted to understand the guidance a little better for JLR for the current year. We exited Q4 on a fairly strong note. When I look at the revenue assumptions, they are not very different from what we had for Q4. If I take the full year annualized for FY27,
But we were at close to, I would say, adjusted for write backs about 7% EBIT margins, whereas we are forecasting around 4% for the full year. We also have some cost takeouts from warranty and other cost reductions. So could you just help us understand, like, what are the cost pressures here incrementally from Q4 that we need to keep in mind?
Want to take it?
Yeah, sure. I'll take that. It's Richard here. So Q4 is always seasonally for us our best quarter, partly in terms of volumes. March is the big sales month in our home market in the UK. So we normally do well in Q4, and an EBIT result of circa 9% or so in the quarter is strong, but you shouldn't anticipate that is a full year average. Pretty much all of the pressures that existed last year will still be with us this year, so a full year of tariffs. And on top of that, as I expect all OEMs are seeing, is an increase in commodity prices and petrochemical-based component prices. So we'll continue to see pressure on material cost, and we will use the missions that we've got, managing warranty, ex-works cost, and our structural base to try and offset that and leave us at a circa 4% EBIT margin for the year. So I'd say the biggest independent increase versus last year is probably in raw materials, given our cars are typically north of 2 tons of something, and in many circumstances that something is rising in price.
Thank you. The second question is just on the consolidated forecast. From FY 29 to 31, we have EBIT margins moving up to 10% from 7%, whereas from 25 to 29, it is somewhere in the same zone. It appears that most of this is coming from JLR side, because there's not that much expansion happening in India. So maybe it would help if you could just talk us through what really are you expecting after FY 29 that could deliver this improvement, and possible to share a similar kind of targets that India business has shared for JLR in terms of FY 29 or FY 31 as well.
See, one thing, Kapil, we have consciously decided we'll go with consolidated guidance because the shares are trading as together. Earlier it was difficult because CV was different, PV was different, and now with, I'm sure you've seen the Balaji's presentation when he's there, now that he's there, as to where we see synergies coming through. So moving forward, we'll only probably go with just the consolidated guidance. Otherwise, it's finally the shareholders looking for what's the revenue growth, what's the profit growth, what's the EPS growth. So it's a total number, and there will be stuff moving between the two companies in terms of synergies that we can easily start juicing out, given that both on the propulsion side as well as on the evolving customer, there are contiguities that we see. So with Avinya happening in Tata Motors side, price is also starting to move up in Tata Motors. And for JLR, again, we are looking at discovery in a serious manner. And therefore, that should start now making this as a more continuum between Tiago, the cool lab that we just saw, all the way up to a Range Rover. So it's a neat continuum that we see. So it's only fair that we then look at this whole thing as a full picture rather than just some of the parts. That's number one. As far as the drivers for profit improvement, we've called it out if you look at the 4 strategies, focus areas that we are looking at. Number one is growth, because the US is one of the most profitable markets that is there. It's also got tremendous revenue pool that is possible, given the pricing of the products, and you saw that in the investor deck as well. It's a market that prices itself quite nicely, 50,000 plus, actually even going 80,000 plus. And it's a solid automotive market in terms of the depth of understanding of automotive is very good. And our penetrations is nothing to write home about, given the size of the market that is out there. And you know that in a business that spends 3.8 billion in capex, growth is one of the biggest operating leverage that you can get, provided you sell the right products. And therefore, growth becomes priority number one. And even within growth, we have consciously said markets that we're calling out, MENA, India, US, China, these are all very profitable markets. So there's no stress at all in these markets. If they grow, it actually gives geography mix in our favor. Then you look at parts and accessories. Then you look at the whole space around halo products, bespoke products. This business, from a revenue growth perspective, has got multiple levers. That will take this time period for us to fulfill these requirements. Because to get a bespoke strategy right, you have to get everything right. So we are pacing ourselves on that basis. By the time then the emission side, things should start quieting down as the EVs start launching, and therefore you should be in a position to manage that piece of the puzzle. And cost outs, we would expect the next 2 years to take out almost 1.7 billion. If this break even is sitting at almost 380,000, goes back to 300,000, that also gives you profitability. So hence, between growth and profitability, we should have multiple levers firing in our favor to take to this double-digit EBIT. And the challenge that has always been for us is, how do you get consistency of performance over the years? All you guys have complained enough and more in terms of don't give us surprises. And that's the reason resiliency is being picked up as a key thematic to bake into the system. You don't build resiliency in one quarter. You build it over a period of time. And therefore, it has to be coming in all matters. Your growth has to be diversified. Currencies have to get naturally hedged out. You have to ensure that your supply sources you don't have unique sources there. That has to get diversified. All this take time to play out, but it has to be part of the strategy that is baked in today. That is the third piece of the puzzle. None of these pieces of the puzzle are possible unless the people are all with us and firing away in terms of a high-performing team. That's how the strategy has been woven. It's a very simple, straightforward strategy. There's no rocket science in it. But the fun is about how to execute this in the most exciting way. Because we are blessed to have sitting with brands like the Range Rover, the Defender, the Jaguar, and the Discovery. And when we juice that to the limit, differentiate that from one to another, then you will be able to cater to different customer segments and grow. So this is the broad strategy. In this, of course, products like Jaguar coming back into profits and doing well are all playing in our favor in terms of product mix as well. So pretty confident of the plan that we put out there. And at the same time, going forward, it will be a consolidated guidance that we want to work with. But that gives us flexibility to work on different levers.
Okay, so this is more of a linear kind of improvement, nothing specific happening between 29 and 31 that is taking up the margin. It's a general improvement.
29 is when bulk of your product launches are completing. Therefore, there will be a bit of play in terms of how much FME you spend on it, whether you got the full market impact for it. And thereafter, the new launches, model year 30 that comes in the Range Rover Sport is another big one that comes through in terms of products. So multiple interventions happening. We are not sitting idle.
Sure, that's what I wanted to understand. Thank you so much and best wishes.
Thank you.
Hi team, thanks for the presentation. This is Binay from Morgan Stanley. Actually, if I just look at, we have consolidated guidance, very detailed given. We have very detailed standalone guidance, right? So in a way, is it fair that the implied is all JLR only, right? So if we just minus the two, because if I do that and if I assume that the others bit, which is non-India, non-JLR remains constant, then it broadly implies that JLR guidance is going from 1% to 12%, in FY31. So is this understanding correct? Because
that mathematics you should ask Dhiman to make, because the console is given by him. We submit our numbers and parent takes over. He's there only, you can catch up.
Yeah. So then the second one is that, when you think about like India is targeting 30% electric in 2031, we have a capex number for India, and India has also given a free cash flow number. For JLR, ideally by this math, it seems JLR should be very high FCF positive, but you've not called that out. So could you sort of take us through how do you see JLR FCF or capex? Because when I do the minus, it seems that all the free cash flow is coming from JLR. Is that correct understanding?
Binay being Binay, there are different ways of asking the same question. So speak to Dhiman. From our perspective, the strategy is laid out. This business we have called out explicitly will be a strong cash positive business. FY27 is the guidance you laid out for the immediate. After that is the strategy that we have explained, and the consolidated guidance go with that. That's the number. So we stand by that. Rest assured, between Richard, Diman, me, Sachin, Oliver, we are all singing on the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, yeah. And lastly, is any EV target for 2031? Because I know we are going to be launching a lot of electric vehicles.
We are. Consciously, we haven't put a target. So we notice even our sustainability targets we are looking at, scope 1, scope 2, we are focused on. We are in absolutely no position to figure out what is scope 3 because the markets are all going off in different directions. And there's no way we can figure out how much electrification will happen in different parts of the world. China moves at a different pace to UK, Europe to different to the ZEV mandate, for example, in UK is changing as we speak, and US is in a different world. So our job is to keep all the options ready and ensure we're compliant from a CAFE perspective in different markets. We have the portfolio ready by then. How much is the take rates that will happen? We believe take a product like a Range Rover Electric, for instance. We're sitting with 78,000 orders, of which more than 70% does not have a Range Rover in their household today. Those are all big opportunity areas for us. How much will that convert finally in 2030s in terms of sustained growth? We'll have to wait and see. So we are not, unlike EVs in India, where we are much more clearer that this market is moving towards electrification. The world is moving in different pathways. How will that mix overall play out is anybody's guess. So market by market, we'll have to ensure that we build share. And how does the overall mix in the markets move? We'll have to just wait and see.
And that's why, just to add to that, that's why I focused on flexibility and optionality when we were talking together in Gaydon. And flexibility for us, we've got to a situation on both MLA and EMA where down the same line, one after another, you can have an ICE vehicle and a BEV vehicle. So we're not at the stage of having two separate executions that customers have to choose. It is literally down the same line. If they choose a HEV, we'll produce a HEV. If they choose a PHEV, we'll produce a PHEV. So the one thing that we know in this industry is that it is extremely unpredictable. It depends on who's in government. It depends on what consumer sentiment is. The only thing that you can do as a responsible OEM is give yourself the flexibility to succeed in whatever version of the future happens in whatever countries you sell in.
Great. Thanks, team.
Hi, this is Pankaj Murarka from Renaissance Investment Managers. I have two questions. One, a few years back at JLR, we perceived that the luxury car market in China is a great opportunity, and we had a significant, potential there. And eventually, things didn't turn out the way we expected. And now we are calling out US as a market. So for us to draw some, Many, if you can share some more granular insight in terms of, obviously, the US car market has always been there. In terms of strategy and what gives us confidence to be able to penetrate there or achieve there, given what happened when we called out China and we couldn't, move there. And second question is, if you can also share some perspective on, given what's happening with your peer groups in Europe, given the Chinese competition. I understand Range Rover is a different segment and all of that, but still, if you can give some perspective on the European and the Canadian market where Chinese are trying to penetrate from a competitive intensity perspective, that will be helpful.
Yeah. See, firstly, I would beg to differ that we haven't realized the China opportunity because that market is a very good market for us. It's a market that we have invested in consistently. And it's a market, today we sell 16,000 Range Rovers there without batting an eyelid there. And we are amongst the lowest in terms of VMEs that we put in that market. The challenge in that market happened in terms of the lower end cars, which all of it we are getting out of this year because the final production will happen sometime in September types this year, after which the entire CJLR portfolio moves to Freelander products. And that will be a royalty earning stream for us. So I continue to expect China to be value accretive growth for us and it is continuing to do well this year. That's the reason we explicitly called out China has stabilized for us. Unlike other OEMs who are calling out there's a problem in China, we are not signaling a problem in China. We have actually stabilized in China, and now I expect to start seeing growth coming back into that market for us. So that is a China story.
Sorry
As
to
far-
interject. I was talking about China in the context, if you recollect, in 22 or something, 21 or 22, we made a big presentation to set of investors where we said that we have probably targeting a meaningful market share in the luxury car market in China. And that never happened the way we expected. So I was talking in that context. I'm just setting the context right.
Hear you. And as far as the market has also changed dramatically, right? In a changed market condition where you're saying most of the OEMs, global OEMs actually having serious stress in that market, we are signaling the other way around. Because the domestic players have gotten onto it. I don't think in 22 there was a major call out in terms of the local OEMs going up to 60% plus kind of market shares. Where some of the country OEMs, the Koreans are almost out of that market. The Japanese are almost out of the market barring Lexus. The Americans are completely out of the market barring Tesla. So we are not in that world at all. We are actually having a meaningful play, and I would expect to see that meaningful play continue to grow. But the brands are doing well there. So that's the China situation. US is concerned, US first is about the market opportunity existed, absolutely correct. But the point, we weren't ready to tap into that opportunity because our inherent health was not particularly great. And the last 3 years, actually, with Defender coming in, suddenly we are able to have a meaningful play in that market. Otherwise, it was a lot of Jaguar play, which was value destroying for us. Now, with that play has now shifted to a Range Rover Sport Defender play, which is all value accretive. It is the most profitable market for us in terms of absolute profits we generate in that market. And the retailer network was also strengthened in the same time period. Brand salience has improved. And therefore, now the right to win is also there, which did not exist before. The market was that we didn't have the right to win. And that's the reason we are now going to make it even more relevant from a portfolio perspective, looking at the conversation with Stellantis to see if there's any products from a Defender portfolio that we can make it suitable for the US market. And we have also made a conscious call with all the noise happening in the world. This is a market, given that we sell about 100,000 cars in that market, where the premium market alone is almost 2.5 million. We should be in a position to go deeper. And if we play that card well, this can be as big as JLR today. No other market offers that kind of an opportunity. Once we have assessed the opportunity, then we have assessed our own endowments to actually make that, to convert. What are the remaining gaps there? Big one that we need to sort out completely will be quality and the whole trust pillar that is there, where it's a market that can be punitive if you don't play that card well. So it's important that we get that right, and we are absolutely committed to get that right. And hence, one of the reasons we also want to take it as an organizational challenge is to say that if we can win in the US, that means the product from a quality perspective also now can win anywhere in the world. And that is how we will want to take it and win with this. So we are super confident that we will make this conversion happen. And that's how I see that play going. End of the day, you have to be very clear in winning in the market, the amount of effort you put, where is the returns going to come? This, we believe, is a market that will give us the returns. And China, we are already doing well, so let it continue to do well.
Sure. And on the Chinese competition in the European markets?
See, more than Europe, I'll talk about the UK market, which is equally, in fact, even more intense here. And our brands are in a good place, and we do well because from a category perspective, we are a market leader in this category here. And though the largest selling car in the US, UK today is a Chinese car, actually from our perspective, the three cars are doing very well because the category is getting reassessed and the market leader gets disproportionate gains on that. And we believe the brands are strong enough to take care of that. Of course, we need to continue to stay relevant. We need to continue to, it's not a price competition for us at all. It is more about what is the brand, what are the features that comes onto the brand. So we need to be up to date with respect to the relevant features coming onto the cars, which is what our product launches are going to be. Because we shouldn't forget that whatever volumes that JLR is delivering today is on launches that have happened 4 years back. The last launch was 4 years back. And we've got 5 cars launching in the next 18 months. And therefore, that's a level of intensity of news that will be coming from a market perspective. And we believe that buzz will also give us tremendous volume pull as we get into the 28th, 29th time periods.
Yeah, hi, this is Gunjan from Bank of America, and thank you so much for making time for this. After I heard the JLR analyst meet last week, I mean, I came away with two broad messages that there are going to be more EV launches, and NA, North America is a big focus area for the entire organization. But when I step back, I think, a lot of product action is EV oriented, which is not really the big, the big transition that we're seeing in US, right? US has been pretty slow as far as EV goes. And all the European OEMs seem to be identifying North America as the big growth market because China, in a way, has been a very, very challenging market. So in that context, I just wanted to hear a little bit more. What does the NA strategy entail? Is it more products? Is it more geography? I mean, how do we think about the opportunity over the next couple of years? And if you can give a little bit more color on this 77,000 orders that you spoke, or the interest that you spoke about on the RR Electric, is there some geo color or something else beyond the non-LR customer base that you can, can share on that number?
Two things. One is the reason we have gone in with propulsion flexibility is also to cater to the North American market, because that's a market that we believe will require this flexibility in propulsion that is there so that the customer can make a choice. Other thing too, the mistake you would do is if you were to paint North America as one solid entity. North America is different. The East Coast is different from the West Coast, is different from the center, is different to the... for example, we have a huge presence in Miami from a market share perspective. If you go into Miami, you will see the Range Rovers there. You go into a New York State, the city, it will be completely Range Rover Sport. You go down to LA, you'll find a lot of our products. Just go a little bit up north into San Francisco, you will not find us. Go into northern, even further north into Seattle, we are not there. For me, just geography, ensuring that every geography cater to the right product segments and we deliver the right one is growth for us, number one. Number two, if you go into the West Coast, for them, the reason they don't want us is that there's no electric vehicles out there. And you see the amount of Teslas that's sold there. That requirement, you look at the millionaires and billionaires that are getting formed there and their own outlook to sustainability and how they want to have an electric, those are all opportunities for us. At the same time, I can't go into that market and say that no, we'll have a hybrid propulsion, not there. It's only pure EVs, won't work. For the reason EMA has gone fully hybrid. At the same time, I don't have a problem in the MLA product because the MLA products can give you all the propulsion choices that we want. So for us, if you have to read us at a granular level, if you read it as a consolidated level, it will not give you the story that we are looking for. And the other one that if you notice, and we have called out these drivers in the investor pack, and Balaji is also there, so he can explain to you in greater detail. It is as much supply chain, because how do you prioritize the US as a market? Because then my manufacturing footprint focus areas have to change. And for us, we compete with all the OEMs who have called them out even here. It's not that we don't compete with them the rest of the world. It is just that we need to get a fair share of that market. We are not trying to say that we are the only North American player there. We are below fair share. If we get fair share itself, it's huge growth opportunity for us. So that's how I see that product, of that situation. And your second question was?
On the
I lost my train of thought.
interest that you have for the RR Electric.
See, the Range Rover 78,000, 70% is non-Range Rover customers. A lot of it in the US. And so these are the factors that tell us, I believe, that market is starting to stir for us. And therefore, we need to now give it far more care than what we have done in the past. And geographically, 50% plus of it is US orders. Customers are looking at it. So that's huge for Range Rover Pure Electric. And now we're having all the dealers coming and visiting us and looking at the cars. That there is a lot of buzz on that car. And this is just Range Rover. We're not talking about the new other cars that are coming in. And you were there, I mean, you went there for the House of Brands deep dives that we did. There is a portfolio that is pretty rich and pretty compelling that is coming through there. Along with that, we'll also look at US-specific portfolios that are there. That's the reason the Stellantis has been announced as well, the MOU. So I think you would appreciate that it's not one silver bullet that we need to get right, then everything falls in right. Nothing in the world is like that. But you would also appreciate that it's an extremely comprehensive plan that's being laid out step by step by step. And we'll keep bolstering it as we go along. and ensure that this is a market that converts.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks. In the interest of time, we'll have one last question.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. This is Kumar Rakesh from BNP Paribas. Can you see me? Yeah.
Hi, Rakesh.
Hi. My first question was on the break-even that we are targeting, the free cash flow break-even volume. So break-even is a function of volume and realization. And this year, as you have also rightly said, that most of the product launches were done 4 years back, and the next leg of model launch will start happening towards the end of the financial year. So do you see a risk to your revenue, A, from the realization starting to come off as through this year? B, maybe from the volume side that you won't have the Jaguar contribution through most part of this year, and the Middle East impact wasn't there in the last financial year, which may have something to play in the first quarter. And some of the end market also have been slow in the last few months. So do you see the risk to the revenue coming in from these aspects, realization, Middle East, and the end market?
So the one thing that you haven't mentioned is that during last year, we did have a cyber interruption. So we are still recovering a little bit from that. The Middle East for us, we obviously saw a decline in interest during the period where the dealerships were shut. But since they have reopened, actually there's been some latent demand. So I'm not anticipating there is going to be a major full year hit on the assumption that the peace agreement holds in some shape, size or form. And the UK is strong. Europe is stable-ish. It's not particularly strong, but the UK is strong. North America is strong, and the overseas markets are also reasonable. So no, look, you're correct in that our new vehicle launches are very much tail end of the year, so won't significantly impact volume. So it's not going to be a bumpy year in terms of volume, but it should be a pretty stable year for us.
Got that. And second question was on the political risk. So change in leadership in the UK, Europe has passed the Industrial Accelerator Act, in which they'll potentially give incentives only on EVs made in EU. Do you see any risk from these political activities?
So, I mean, do you want me to say that? So look, there is obviously uncertainty, particularly in terms of UK policy direction. We will stay close to whatever new administration emerges. I think direction on most of the ZEV mandate has been set and is unlikely to change. There is going to be continuing discussion with Europe around their Made in Europe proposals, which are not yet passed, yet they are still draft proposals. And there is also a rules of origin requirement that comes into effect 1st of January 2027, which the two governments are negotiating. So I think any company prefers stability over instability. However, I don't see any significant risks to the main trade between the UK and Europe or the UK and the US that results from what's happening either in terms of UK politics or EU politics.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm sure you got a good peep into the growth-focused mindset of the PV business and the important pivot that we are going to make in the luxury part of our business. With that, we come to the end of this Investor Day. Thank you for your participation and your interest in the company. I also take the liberty to thank all the speakers and the JLR team for joining us. Thank you very much. With that, we conclude the session today. Thank you.
Thank you.